Everyone knew that Deng Tsang was trying to distract Boss Bao. In truth, now that things had progressed to this point, no one wanted to fight. They didn't dare to. When they had first come, they had thought that with so many of them gathered, a declined sect like the Xiantian Dao sect wouldn't be able to resist at all. But first the Xiantian Tower had revealed its power, and then the Huayan sect, Heaven-Splitting Battle sect, Heavenly Sword Gate, and Wine God Palace had joined in. If there was a fight, rivers of blood would flow. So if Boss Bao really did attack and kill that person, it still wouldn't cause a fight, because no one else wanted to. That person would have died for nothing, and no one would stand up for him. At most, they would criticize Boss Bao with a few words. That was why Deng Tsang had to open his mouth and return to the main point. He could see that suppressing the Xiantian Dao sect today was no longer possible. The best thing to do was to resolve this problem first. Sorry, I was sleeping just now and didn't hear what the ancient races said. Can you repeat it? Asked Long Chen. In truth, he had heard it, but he simply needed some time to organize what he was going to say. That ancient race expert repeated himself. The Xiantian Dao sect killed so many experts of the ancient races. It was clearly intentional, backed by vicious motives. They have to give the ancient races an explanation, otherwise… Long Chen sneered inside. This person really was an idiot. Not only had he repeated the same threat, but even his tone was the exact same. It seemed the ancient races were very used to threatening people like this. Then there's no need for any explanation. Why don't you explain what that otherwise is? That will make it simpler. Just tell us, otherwise what? Long Chen asked disdainfully. You, the ancient race expert, became gloomy. He hadn't expected Long Chen to directly respond in the most forceful way. Long Chen, this brother from the ancient races, was just saying some words of anger. You should still respond to the main point of the question, said Deng Tsang. Although his words seemed to be that of a mediator, Long Chen could hear that he was trying to force him. The Martial Heaven Alliance had actually sent such trash to mediate this matter. He was completely biased against Long Chen. But since they wanted to play, he would play with them. When had he ever been afraid of such a thing? All right, since the Martial Heaven Alliance wants to act as a mediator to resolve our conflicts, my Xiantian Dao sect will accept your kindness. Let's not beat around the bush. Today, I'll let the entire righteous path see just who is in the right. I trust that at least half of the people here have secretly activated a photographic jade. There's no need for you to act so secretively. My Xiantian Dao sect's formation has been recording everything from the start, and once today's matter is over, we will spread it throughout the Central Plains. Hehe, since everyone here is a big figure, I'm sure you'll be recognized. So, fellow from the ancient races, let me ask you this. When you say that the Xian master intentionally killed your people due to vicious motives, what did you mean? Isn't that obvious? It's because of you that Li Tianxian intentionally acted so viciously, said the ancient race expert without hesitation. Ha! Long Chen suddenly raised his head and laughed. His laughter contained a viciousness of a bloodthirsty beast. So you know it was because of me? Weren't you the ones who were hunting me down and trying to kill me? Was I supposed to sit there and let you kill me? You really are idiots. If I had Fatty Two's cultivation base, I'd go for a stroll through your ancient race's land and see just how many idiots I could kill. I, Long Chen, always follow the principle of if others don't offend me, I won't offend them. The enmity between myself and the ancient races stems completely from your side. In the immemorial path, it was the ancient races who were too overbearing and tried to kill me for my treasures that made me counterattack. The enmities of the Eastern Wasteland were concluded in the Eastern Wasteland, but even now that I'm in the Central Plains, you still want to target me. You once more attacked me in the Eastern Sea, and I was forced to attack back. In the Four Nations Ancient Remnant, you plotted against me, and so I once more slaughtered your people. This time at Devil Spirit Mountain, you attacked me again. For me, a single foundation forging disciple, you mobilized so many life star experts. Do your ancient races even have any face left? Because I killed your disciple, you felt like it was only natural to send your senior generation after me. But once my sect master saved me by killing those people, you demand an explanation? You idiots, do you think the world belongs to the ancient races? Only you are permitted to kill others, but others aren't permitted to kill you? Is there such an idiotic logic in this world? Long Chen's words contained all his fury. His enmity with the ancient races had started back in the immemorial path. They had gone too far, continuously going after him. Anyone would have gotten angry, let alone someone like Long Chen with his explosive temper. But in any case, you killed people from the ancient races. That's unacceptable. One of the ancient race experts had only just finished speaking when a golden light shot out from the Xiantian Tower. A terrifying pressure descended, and that ancient race expert instantly couldn't move. He could only watch as he was annihilated by the golden light. Is it unacceptable? Then I want to know, after I kill all of you, what will happen? Li Tianxian opened his eyes at this time. Bastard! The ancient races were infuriated by Li Tianxuan's actions. They all took out their weapons and unleashed their auras, about to start killing. The fight's starting. Boss Bao and the others were delighted. They had been waiting for this moment for a long time. But just at this moment, the sky darkened and the world was thrust into darkness. A light beam from the Xiantian Tower enveloped all the ancient race experts. Under that terrifying pressure, those ancient race experts all quivered and knelt on the ground. They had no choice but to kneel. In front of that divine might, if they didn't kneel, they would immediately turn to dust. My Xiantian Dao sect might have declined, but our karmic luck hasn't been severed. With the Xiantian Tower present, anyone who tries to show off their power within the Xiantian Dao sect will be an absolute joke. Li Tianxuan's voice resounded within the darkness. His voice was like a god's. Within this darkness, the Xiantian Tower was the absolute ruler. It was using the Xiantian Dao sect's karmic luck to form this domain. As long as Li Tianxian willed it, it would be able to annihilate everyone here. That included everyone from Pill Valley, the ancient races, and the ancient family alliance. They were all shocked. They hadn't expected that not only was the Xiantian Tower undamaged, but the Xiantian Dao sect still possessed such terrifying karmic luck. They had looked down on them too much. At this time, the power the Xiantian Tower had displayed was enough that crushing them would be like crushing ants. Even Qi Yunao with his divine magical staff felt his heart shuddering. If the Xiantian Tower unleashed its power, he had no confidence that his staff would be able to save his life. Now Qi Yunao realized why the heaven-suppressing magic sect had been ranked last amongst the 3 sects of the heavens back in their golden era. Their foundation was a far cry from the Xiantian Dao sects. As for the heaven-splitting battle sect, their foundation should be even more terrifying. It was just that everyone had been fooled by their declined appearance. Now they finally realized how terrifying their foundations were. Are we still killing? Boss Bao and the others had already taken out their swords. But seeing the ancient race experts kneeling there, they didn't know if they were supposed to kill them or not. But the light beam vanished, the darkness scattered, and that terrifying pressure lifted. The world returned to its original color. But everyone was still shocked. Only now did the ancient race experts stand up, pale as paper. They no longer had their old arrogance. Just now, they had felt like they had brushed against death. Seeing them so ashen, not even daring to let out a fart, the Dragonblood warriors all had contemptuous expressions. No wonder the rumors were that the ancient races were experts at bullying the weak but cowards in the face of the strong. They were just paper tigers that looked strong, but were more cowardly than anyone. The power of the Xiantian Tower had shocked everyone. Even the people from the Martial Heaven Alliance were shocked. They had all underestimated the Xiantian Dao sect. Thinking of how they had said they would raise the Xiantian Dao sect to the ground and erase their name from the Central Plains, they realized what a huge joke it had been. This slap was truly vicious. Ancient races, I'm warning you that you should do your best not to provoke my Xiantian Dao sect, or me, Long Chen. We're not as easy to bully as you think. For you, whoever's fist is stronger is who's right, correct? We can do just that right now. My Xiantian Dao sect's fist is not weak, it's just that we haven't unleashed it in all this time. But if there was a suitable target, my Xiantian Dao sect wouldn't mind unleashing this fist to prove our power, said Long Chen coldly. This was the best time to intimidate the ancient races with their power. They had to express their attitude here to shake the hearts of these shameless fellows. After finishing up with the ancient races, Long Chen turned to Zhuo Tianxiang. He sneered, "As for Pill Valley, I simply want to say that you are more shameless than the ancient races. The ancient races were at least direct and acted openly. But you had to set up all kinds of schemes and sinister plots. You actually listened to that idiot Xian Jizi and wanted to steal my treasures." Dan Chu's words from the Four Nations ancient remnant already said all this. Back then, Dan Ting lost his own life to show Pill Valley's supposed innocence. But instead of learning your lesson and reserving your greed and shamelessness, you decided to unleash your anger on me. Dan Xing made up some random excuse and attacked me without giving the Xintian Dao sect any notice or giving me any chance to explain my innocence. So what if we were forced to kill you shameless idiots? For you to have the face to come demand justice from my Xintian Dao sect? Is Pill Valley always this shameless? What bullshit! It's no random excuse. We received reports from the people within your very Xintian Dao sect, people who care about the world. They demanded that we investigate the truth. What about that is improper? Raged Zhuo Tianxiang. What is improper with it? I really am laughing. Do you think you're the bailiff in charge of catching this world's criminals? That you have to interfere with everything that goes on? Who gave you that authority? No matter what happens, you have to control it. Don't think that controlling the lifeblood of a few sects is enough to control the world. Do you think that others are fools? The sects that your Pill Valley is able to control are nothing more than minor powers currying favor. Any sects with a real backbone and a real foundation won't bend to your will. Long Chen laughed and walked off his stage. He walked through the Life Star experts, coldly looking at them. Perhaps you still don't know what a foundation is. Or perhaps the foundation that you understand is a different thing than what I'm talking about. The thing that you call foundation is nothing more than a sect's karmic luck, trump cards, and power. Perhaps those are what you're most afraid of. But today, the foundation I'm talking about is not one of those three things. After saying that, Long Chen suddenly extended a hand and slapped Pill Valley's law enforcer, Zhuo Tianxiang, across the face. Pow! An explosive ringing sound shocked everyone. No one would have imagined that Long Chen would attack now. As for Zhuo Tianxiang, he had been focused on Long Chen's words and preparing a way to argue against them. He hadn't been on guard at all. Long Chen finished speaking just as he arrived in front of him, and then slapped him without any warning. Die! Zhuo Tianxiang's hand suddenly became covered in flames, and he thrust it at Long Chen. But Long Chen just stood there as if he couldn't see Zhuo Tianxiang's attack. But darkness once more covered the world, and boundless divine might locked onto Zhuo Tianxiang. He froze in the air, not daring to move. Do you see? This is a foundation. I can slap you, while you don't dare to kill me. If you kill me, you will be killed by the Xintian Tower. Now do you understand what a foundation is? It's a heart that is willing to fight to the death fearlessly, one that dares to continue charging forward despite all obstacles. Now I've brought my foundation out. I am willing to exchange my life for yours, so I don't hesitate to slap you. But you are hesitating because you don't have that courage, because you are afraid of dying. Long Chen stood with his arms clasped behind his back, calmly lecturing Zhuo Tianxiang, whose face was twisted into a sinister expression. For a moment, everyone was deathly silent. Within this darkness, there was only light covering Long Chen and Zhuo Tianxiang. Everyone's gaze was on them. Under the divine light of the Xintian Tower, their expressions, even each hair on their bodies, could be clearly seen. Long Chen's expression was completely calm. He hadn't even unleashed his aura, and yet that arrogant appearance that looked down on the rest of the world deeply shook the hearts of the people. Under the illumination of the Xintian Tower's light, he appeared even more handsome, and his eyes shone like stars, filled with a feeling of wildness and danger. That posed a fatal attraction to young women. Meng Qi, Tang Wana, Hua Shiyu, Zhao Ziyan, and the other women all felt their hearts involuntarily pounding hard. This wild, domineering display had a special kind of attraction to it. No one else could replicate his air. It was unique to Long Chen. Even some of the young female disciples from the ancient family alliance were attracted by Long Chen's appearance under that light. They had never seen or heard of someone with such a unique air. For Long Chen, someone at the Foundation Forging Realm, to consecutively slap life star experts in the face toppled their understanding of cultivation. Most importantly, the only thing to compare him to was Zhuo Tianxiang with his sinister expression. Even someone ordinary would become exceptionally handsome in comparison. Tu Qianshang, Boss Bao, and the others nodded in praise. This was how real men should act. They should be domineering and dare to do what they wanted. But Li Tianxian was speechless. When Long Chen's temper got the best of him, he really was capable of doing anything. Despite being in control of the situation, he still took this risk. Ling Yunzi had a smile on his face. The current Long Chen was still the same Long Chen from the 108th monastery. His fearless character, one that seemed to be saying that the heavens were the younger brother while he was the big brother, hadn't changed. But the person who had to have a headache because of Long Chen had become Li Tianxian. When Ling Yunzi thought of all the things from back then, he felt many emotions. In the past few years, his cultivation base had advanced by leaps and bounds thanks to the annihilation sword Dao he had comprehended from Long Chen's body. He had risen to a height that even he would have never imagined. During these years, he had experienced countless things and gone through several metamorphoses. His own character had changed. He was like a completely different person. But Long Chen, despite having experienced so much slaughter, despite having killed his way from the eastern wasteland to the central plains, had still retained his original heart. That was something that made him sigh with emotion. Long Chen coldly stared at Zhuo Tianxiang, while Zhuo Tianxiang clenched his teeth and raised his arms several times. As long as he slammed his hand down, Long Chen would definitely die. But he didn't dare to, because he knew that when Long Chen was killed, the Xintian Tower would annihilate him out of existence. Kill him? He didn't dare to. Don't kill him? He was unwilling. For a moment, he felt like he was going insane. Do you see? This is a foundation. Starting today, my Xintian Dao sect is rising. No matter who tries to stop us, they will have to bear our merciless attacks. If anyone wants to doubt our determination, you can come and try us. The foundation I'm talking about isn't meant to just frighten you, sneered Long Chen. He turned and went back to his seat. As for Zhuo Tianxiang, in the end, he didn't dare to attack. He just watched as Long Chen left. Deng Tsang, this is the attitude of your martial heaven alliance? Demanded Zhuo Tianxiang. Deng Tsang helplessly said, suppressing the weak through power isn't something we would do. I trust that the Xintian Dao sect will give you a satisfactory answer. Deng Tsang had once more kicked the ball back to the Xintian Dao sect. Long Chen sneered, I've already given my answer. When it comes to the ancient races, they simply deserved it. After hunting me down for so long, our Xian master accidentally killed some of them. Now, neither side owes the other anything. As for Pill Valley, Dan Ting intentionally made a plot to harm me. Although he was executed by Pill Valley, Dan Xing then continued to try and kill me. He also died, accidentally, to the Xian master. I'm not going to look further into why he was targeting me, so that matter is also over. What further answer is required? If Long Chen had said this at the start, everyone would have scoffed at him and cursed him, helping Pill Valley condemn him. But after the intimidation of the Xintian Tower, none of them dared to make a sound. If you wanted to talk reason, the first thing you needed was power. Otherwise, a tiger wouldn't talk reason with a rabbit. Now, Long Chen had displayed the power of a lion, and his words contained enough weight. All right, then even if we first set aside those 2 points, what about your status as a Heaven Caesar? Why would so many people claim that you are a Heaven Caesar and they even come from the same sect as you? Don't you feel like you should give an explanation to the righteous path? Demanded Zhuo Tianxiang. Right now, it really was difficult to quibble with the first 2 points, and so he could only turn to Long Chen's status as a Heaven Caesar. Just this 1 point was enough to get Long Chen killed. And even if he wasn't killed, the Xintian Dao sect would become the world's enemy and be destroyed quickly. No one would be able to protect them, so Zhuo Tianxiang's goal would still be achieved. Long Chen smiled slightly, long since knowing he would say this. Where are those people saying that? Let them come out and testify. You want them to come out? Following Zhuo Tianxiang's voice, over 10 disciples wearing the robes of the Xiantian Dao sect walked out. Everyone, we can testify that Long Chen is a heaven Caesar, a variant heaven Caesar. We personally witnessed the change in the Dragonblood Legion. Those disciples all began to raise suspicious points. Some even said that they had personally seen Long Chen extract other people's spirit blood after killing them and inject it into the disciples of the Dragonblood Legion. They had seen those Dragonblood warriors' celestial ranks advancing right there and then. Long Chen, do you still have anything to say? These disciples are all people from your Xiantian Dao sect, correct? For them to accuse you, we also didn't dare to completely trust them, so we even investigated their souls and found that they aren't lying. That's why we wanted to capture you, for the safety of the righteous path. Is there anything wrong with that? If you don't believe me, you can do your own soul search to check their memories, said Zhuo Tianxiang confidently. Changing memories, hypnotizing people, spiritual witchcraft, I stopped playing with such things a long time ago. It seems I really overestimated you. Is your Pill Valley just a group of pigs? You think changing a few memories is enough to get me killed? Don't you know that everything in the Xiantian Dao sect is under the view of the reincarnation mirror? Sneered Long Chen. But just at this moment, a scene appeared in the air. This scene showed the testifying disciples being drawn out of the sect in secret, either by mysterious experts, by the bait of wealth or resources, or even by attractive females. All the scenes were there. Damn it, that girl's so attractive. Why didn't she come seduce me? Guoran was in the midst of sighing emotionally when Tang Wan'er kicked him away. This little fellow was becoming unbridled once more and saying whatever was on his mind. Guoran hastily quibbled, "What I mean is that if she came to seduce me, I would display to her what an iron heart and unchanging faith are. I would show my undying loyalty to Boss Dash. Shut up. If you keep talking, I'll send you to Sister Qinyu." Long Chen almost coughed up blood. Guoran's impromptu performance made the atmosphere Long Chen had worked hard to build weaken. Long Chen really wanted to slap him. "Oh Grand Law Enforcer Zhuo, the reincarnation mirror is one of my Xiantian Dao sect's core divine items. You wouldn't suspect that we would fake such a thing, right?" Long Chen looked at Zhuo Tianxiang. At this time, Zhuo Tianxiang's face alternated between red and white. He looked like he had just eaten a pile of dog's hit and couldn't swallow it, nor could he spit it out. For a moment, everyone was silent, all their gazes on Zhuo Tianxiang. The reincarnation mirror was one of the Xiantian Dao sect's core treasures, and it had amazing abilities of its own. The reincarnation mirror even had the ability to deduce the past and future based on the heavenly Daos. This matter's cause was instantly exposed. Zhuo Tianxiang was incomparably infuriated. He had asked all of the already dead Dan Sheng's women about this matter, but due to insufficient time on his part, he hadn't been too clear about these testifiers. When Dan Sheng had targeted Long Chen back at Devil Spirit Mountain, he had sworn to Pill Valley that when it came to the testifiers, there would definitely be no problem. But what he meant by there would be no problem was that after he captured Long Chen, he would kill the testifiers and only leave behind a recording of them testifying against Long Chen. Once those people were dead, Dan Sheng would even push the blame on the Xiantian Dao sect, making the story that the Xiantian Dao sect had killed those people to try and cover up the truth. Regretfully, Dan Sheng's life was cut short by Li Tianxian, and he hadn't accomplished his mission. As for Zhuo Tianxiang, he hadn't known about this plan of Dan Sheng's, causing him to make a huge mistake today. He had ended up conned by himself. Someone must be trying to target your Xiantian Dao sect to do this. Perhaps your Xiantian Dao sect simply offended someone. I had no idea about this matter. Zhuo Tianxiang immediately cut off his own ties to this matter. Pill Valley definitely could not be given the name of someone who framed others. Otherwise, they would lose all their face. In the Four Nations Ancient Remnant, Pill Valley could say that Dan Teng's plot against Long Chen was due to a personal grievance. At most, Pill Valley would say that Dan Teng was at fault and execute him. That would count as an explanation to the righteous path. But now it was different. Zhuo Tianxiang had come under his status as Pill Valley's law enforcer. If he accepted that this was done by Pill Valley, it would truly be the entire Pill Valley framing others. You didn't know about it? If you didn't know, why did you so stubbornly insist that I'm a heaven Caesar? You even hunted me down so openly. Are you all idiots, or do you just believe anything that others tell you? Then do you believe me when I say I'm your long-missing father? Sneered Long Chen. Did he think people were stupid enough to believe this excuse? Long Chen, perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Either way, Zhuo Tianxiang is a senior from Pill Valley. You should pay attention to your tone. Chided Deng Tsang, helping Zhuo Tianxiang from his conundrum. Can a senior randomly accuse anyone of anything? Sorry, but I'm not taking that crap. Scoffed Long Chen. Long Chen, do you know who you're speaking to? Deng Tsang's expression sank. He now attempted to use his status as part of the Martial Heaven Alliance to suppress him. Don't try to act so magnanimous. You're not the one who was hunted down. Today, I am announcing that the Xiantian Dao sect is rising. You've seen our trump cards, and you've seen our attitude clearly. If you want to die, then come at any time. My Xiantian Dao sect will accompany you to the last warrior, to our last drop of blood. So either fight or scram. Fight or scram. Fight or scram. Fight or scram. Following Long Chen's voice, the Dragonblood Legion all raised their arms and cheered, their voices shaking the sky. At the same time, the cries of every disciple in the Xiantian Dao sect filled the sect. Their cries transmitted their stubborn battle intent. Although these disciples' cultivation bases were low, they were incredibly united, to the point that even these life star experts' expressions changed. They were all the higher-ups of their sects, and some were even their sect masters. But they had never seen a single sect's disciples be so united. They were all crying in unison. This overflowing battle intent and fearless drive could not be faked. This matter can end here. My Pill Valley will investigate what happened and who was intentionally harming your Xiantian Dao sect. We will definitely find justice for you. Zhuo Tianxiang finally reacted. Pushing this matter to the side, he continued, however, are you not going to give us an explanation for the strange advancements of your Dragonblood Legion? Zhuo Tianxiang could only use this one point to turn things around. If Long Chen refused to answer, then there was no way the righteous path would accept it. This secret was something everyone wanted to know. Before this, Pill Valley had wanted to take this secret for themselves. But now, that was no longer possible, so they could only share it with everyone. Whether or not Long Chen actually told them, it would be beneficial to these people. Just how was it that Long Chen, someone with no background, was able to raise the Dragonblood Legion? If they learned this secret, they could also upgrade their own disciples. That's right, this is a problem that threatens the very unity of the righteous path. It threatens the peace of this world, so you must tell us. Following Zhuo Tianxiang, other life star experts began to echo his sentiment. Unity and peace? Are you joking with me? When has the righteous path ever been united or peaceful? When you see others rising, you're even more evil than the corrupt path. It's like you think when we get stronger, we'll dig up your ancestors' tombs, sneered Long Chen. Seeing their self-righteous expressions, he felt like he might vomit. Don't waste time. Today, if you don't tell us, it will prove you're a variant heaven Caesar, cried a life star expert in the crowd. A bunch of idiots. Aren't you just greedy for the secret of my Dragonblood Legion? All right, then today I'll open your dog eyes. Look closely. Long Chen clapped his hands, and over 20 of the Xiantian Dao sect's disciples walked out. They were young, only 16 or 17. But their robes were not the robes of a disciple. They were workers of the outer sect, and their cultivation bases were only at the bone-forging realm. Within the Xiantian Dao sect, their age and cultivation bases couldn't count as talented. They weren't even qualified to become outer sect disciples. Each person can get a bowl. Drink. Long Chen took out a jug and gave them bowls filled with wine. As soon as this wine appeared, its fragrance filled the air. Just by smelling it, a person's pores would open and it would completely relax them. These life star experts' hearts shook. This wine was definitely something only the Wine God Palace could make. These people hadn't tasted a drop in all their lives. Those disciples looked at Long Chen with worship. He was the idol of the entire Shantian sect, and just being this close to him made them quiver. They immediately drank their bowls. Even if this bowl had been full of poison, they'd have still drunk it without hesitation. But all the workers suddenly began to shine. Heaven and earth rumbled as heavenly Tao energy gathered around them. As they bathed in the heavenly Taos, they slowly began to condense runes. What? This scene shocked everyone. These workers had been nothing more than ordinary cultivators, but now they had condensed heavenly Tao runes. Suddenly, a sea of runes appeared behind these disciples. That was the specific cry of the heavenly Taos unique to celestials. This scene was absolutely stunning. They had never seen such a thing. It had to be known that celestials were the favorites of the heavens, and their number was dictated by the chi flow of the world. They were not made by artificial power. That was why the Dragonblood Legion's rise had alarmed these sections. But what? They have become rank 2 celestials. Even this person's voice was shaking, because 2 kinds of runes had now appeared behind these workers, and their heavenly Tao energy strengthened once more. Everyone was stunned. There was a chance for a rank 1 celestial to advance to become a rank 2 celestial, but that chance was very low. But now, over 20 workers had become rank 2 celestials at the same time. But just at this moment, a third kind of rune appeared behind these disciples. Their heavenly Tao energy strengthened once more as they became rank 3 celestials. These workers were dumbfounded. They stood there like statues, not daring to move. Everyone was deathly silent. This completely toppled their understanding of this world. They had seen a group of workers go from ordinary cultivators to rank 3 celestials in one go right in front of them. Now you're rank 3 celestials. But this isn't your final target. The Dragonblood Legion was once like you, and all drank this wine in order to have their current accomplishments. That's why they are your future. Today you were fortunate. I gave all my remaining heavenly Tao wine to you. Now, there's no more heavenly Tao wine in this world, said Long Chen. The wine jug in his hand shattered to pieces. The jug was completely empty. Many thanks, senior apprentice brother Long Chen. We will never forget your favor. Those workers immediately knelt on the ground. Tears streamed down their faces. This fortune had come so suddenly that they couldn't even believe it. All right, you can go now. Starting today, you are no longer workers, but inner sect disciples. Congratulations. Long Chen smiled and sent those disciples away. Toward the people staring at the fragments of the jug lifelessly, he said, "This wine was something the high priest of the wine god palace gave to me. He told me this is the wine god's most ancient inheritance, the blessing of the wine god. But you were so shameless as to continuously frame me as a heaven Caesar. Now that the truth is revealed, do you have anything left to say?" This wine was something he had added crushed rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, and rank 5 heavenly Tao fruits into. That allowed these disciples to instantly become rank 3 celestials. But so much energy couldn't be digested at once. That would completely ruin their foundations and also waste the heavenly Tao fruits. So he only allowed them to become rank 3 celestials for now. I don't believe you. This is definitely a lie you made up. An expert suddenly let out an unwilling roar. This result was something that many people couldn't accept. Seeing these disciples advance to become rank 3 celestials in one go made all their eyes red. But this wine came from the wine god palace, and Long Chen said it was a precious remnant of the wine god and the last bit remaining in this world. He had actually wasted such a thing on workers in order to prove his innocence. Everyone knew that Long Chen wasn't a heaven Caesar. They simply said that for their own profit. This way, not only could they suck up to Pill Valley, but they could also prevent the Shintian Dao sect from rising. Furthermore, they also hoped to learn this secret. But now that this secret was public, it didn't bring them the slightest benefit. And in the future, they would have no excuse to target the Shintian Dao sect. Are you an idiot? This wine comes from the wine god palace. How could it possibly be faked? Sneered Tu Chinsheng. Now Tu Qianshang realized what the high priest had meant by telling him to testify for Long Chen. It seemed that he was helping Long Chen bear the brunt of this problem. This so-called heavenly Tao wine never existed. This wine Long Chen had taken out might be able to deceive others, but it couldn't deceive Tu Qianshang, who came from the wine god palace. He knew Long Chen had done something to this wine, but he naturally didn't expose him and instead helped him cover it up. No matter what Long Chen said, all he had to do was fully support him. But when the Dragon Blood Legion first started rising a few years ago, you still didn't have any relationship with the wine god palace. How do you explain that? Demanded someone. The times didn't match. Fool, I've already told you the origin of this wine to prove my innocence. Don't act like this is an interrogation. I'm not your father, so why do I have to tell you my secrets? As for why the high priest would treat me like this, you should go ask him, sneered Long Chen. The truth was that Long Chen had 100 different excuses to cover this up. But he couldn't be bothered, so he directly used the most head-on approach. A lie was a lie, and the more you spoke, the more holes would appear in your story. Thanks to his years of experience, Long Chen wouldn't make such a foolish mistake. He decided to directly destroy all of their options. If they wanted to ask anything, they could go ask the high priest. He wanted to see just who would dare to do such a thing. Seeing Long Chen directly push the problem to the wine god palace's high priest, everyone was at a loss for words. Go demand an answer from the wine god palace? Was that a joke? Not even Pill Valley had such guts. Although the wine god palace did not participate in the outside world struggles, everyone could tell how strong they were just from how they had expelled Pill Valley from the Grand Xia ancient nation. Pill Valley no longer dared to take a step within the Grand Xia. So just what sect would dare to be so brazen? Back then, even though they had been trying to capture Long Chen, Pill Valley still hadn't dared to enter the Grand Xia. They had only been bold enough to seal the border, so it could be seen how afraid Pill Valley was of the wine god palace. Zhuo Tianxiang's expression became exceedingly ugly. Now he couldn't find any trouble for Long Chen. Pill Valley and the ancient races had been slapped in the face once more. This time, the entire eastern Xian region had known of this matter, so they would truly lose face. I've already made the secret of the heavenly Tao wine public. What are you still doing here? Hurry up and scram. Are you planning on staying for dinner? Long Chen looked at Zhuo Tianxiang indifferently. Back when he had first started cooperating with the wine god palace, Long Chen had discussed this with the high priest. He had left himself this path. That was because Long Chen had known that the Dragon Blood Legion's secret would be exposed sooner or later, and the wine god palace was the best shield for that. That was why this time, Long Chen hadn't had any misgivings about raising the Dragon Blood Legion's power all at once. These experts still hadn't recovered from their shock. It was like they were in a dream. Although they still felt like there were many suspicious points, they weren't qualified to force Long Chen to answer their questions. Long Chen, even ignoring the heavenly Tao wine, what about my Pill Valley's Nirvana scripture? That's a secret art that my Pill Valley does not transmit to anyone. Where did you learn it from? Demanded Zhuo Tianxiang suddenly. When fighting Gue Yan, Long Chen had used the Nirvana scripture, so Zhuo Tianxiang was aware of it. The Nirvana scripture was something only the top disciples of Pill Valley could learn. It not only required great talent, but also a specialized expert to guide you. But Long Chen was actually able to use it. Does the Nirvana scripture belong to Pill Valley? Is there any proof? I obtained the Nirvana scripture in one of the trials of the immemorial path, so does it have any relation to you? Sneered Long Chen. The Nirvana scripture was something he had learned in the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower. But back then he had used a fake status, Long San, and also changed his appearance. No one would link the two. Furthermore, it was true that he had only truly used it in the immemorial path and after. So there was no way to tell he was lying. The immemorial path was an extremely ancient existence. Its history stretched into the immortal era, which was even more ancient than the dark era. There was no way to say anything about it for sure, so it was possible for him to have learned the Nirvana scripture inside. I don't believe you. Speak, what trial did you obtain it from, and how? Don't think I'm so easy to trick, sneered Zhuo Tianxiang. Idiot, this is my personal secret. You're not my son, so why should I tell you? Just telling you that I obtained it in the immemorial path is already giving you face. But as always, I give you an inch, and you take a yard. You're truly courting death. I will no longer answer any of your questions. All I have left for you is one phrase: fight or scram. Long Chen couldn't be bothered. This fellow really was an idiot. Now that he had already resolved the problem of him being a heaven Caesar, Pill Valley had lost the right to try and make things hard for him. Furthermore, on his side, there was the Huayan sect, Heaven-Splitting Battle sect, Heavenly Sword Gate, and Wine God Palace, as well as the Xintian Tower. Even if Long Chen slapped Zhuo Tianxiang on the face again, he wouldn't dare to counterattack. But now they were too far apart, and with his previous experience, this fellow would definitely be prepared, so the chances of succeeding were too low. Otherwise, Long Chen would have definitely slapped him again. Everyone was silent. The people from Pill Valley, the ancient races, and the righteous path all looked at each other in dismay, not able to say a single word. So many of them had come in such an overbearing manner. They had shaken the entire eastern Xian region. It was unknown how many smaller powers were paying attention to the situation here in secret. Now, after having so many of their experts slain by the Xintian Dao sect, they were unable to do anything and were instead viciously slapped in the face. If they left just like this, they would become laughingstocks. For the people from the righteous path, it wasn't that bad. But Pill Valley and the ancient races would lose all their face. Those two powers had come to find justice, but instead of that, they were kicked off the mountain like dogs. However, there was no longer any justifiable reason for them to target Long Chen. They were helpless. Cough. This matter is actually just a misunderstanding. Everyone, there's no need to be so hostile. Dang Tsang suddenly coughed, saying, since it's a misunderstanding, why must we fight? In the end, the Xintian Dao sect truly acted improperly. A strange smile appeared on Long Chen's face, and he didn't say anything. He just looked at Deng Tsang, allowing him to continue. He wanted to see what kind of crap he was about to spout. Seeing Long Chen didn't retort, Deng Tsang thought that Long Chen had reserved himself, and he became much more confident. He cleared his throat and continued. Although everyone came in an overbearing fashion and said that they would destroy the Xintian Dao sect, those were just words of anger and can't be taken literally. As for the Xintian Dao sect, you refused to answer and immediately killed people. This is against the reputation and harmony of the righteous path. Although it is mostly confirmed now that Long Chen isn't a heaven Caesar, he should have announced his secrets earlier to avoid so many experts losing their lives. It's not like his secrets were things that could not see the light of the day. Deng Tsang shook his head with pity at the end. Secrets had to be made public? If not, it was right for others to kill you? Deng Tsang, do you have the slightest sense of shame? Long Chen cursed inside, but he still didn't say anything. Now isn't the time to continue looking into who was right and who was wrong. This was all just a misunderstanding. However, this misunderstanding caused the ancient races, Pill Valley, and the righteous path to lose many experts. In the end, someone must pay for the debt. Furthermore, no matter how you put it, the Xintian Dao sect has some responsibility for these matters. So, I will represent the Martial Heaven Alliance to mediate things. We will let this matter go, and the Xintian Dao sect will not have to pay any compensation. What bullshit? So many of our people died. If they're not going to compensate us, who is? Roared an expert from the ancient races. On the other hand, Zhuo Tianxiang was expressionless and just calmly listening. Let me finish. Although the Xintian Dao sect has some responsibility in this matter, they also lost quite a few experts in Devil Spirit Mountain. So, this matter of compensation will be paid by my Martial Heaven Alliance. Deng Tsang smiled. The Martial Heaven Alliance will compensate us? The ancient race experts were stunned. Even the other experts were stunned, including the Xintian Dao sect's elders. Only Long Chen and Li Tianxian smiled ever so slightly. That smile was one of disdain. Correct. The Xintian Dao sect killed many of the corrupt path's experts, which is a great deal of merit. But they also killed experts of the ancient races and Pill Valley. Their conduct gravely damaged the unity of the continent, so the Martial Heaven Alliance has decided to neither punish nor reward them. Their reward and punishment cancel out, and their original reward will be split amongst those experts who died. How does this sound? Said Deng Tsang. Haha. Suddenly, Long Chen raised his head and laughed thunderously, his voice full of fury and killing intent. From the moment Deng Tsang had opened his mouth and said that the Martial Heaven Alliance would be paying the compensation, Long Chen had known what this bastard had been intending. He was planning on using the reward of the battle on Devil Spirit Mountain, the reward belonging to the Shen Dao sect, to appease the ancient races and Pill Valley. He wanted to take the Shen Dao sect's resources to use as a gift for others. Although he had long since been prepared for such a thing, he was still infuriated. For someone to be shameless to such an extent, he supposed he should admire it. Deng Tsang's expression sank. Long Chen, you dash. Shut the fuck up. Do you believe me when I say if you piss me off any more, I'll kill you right now? Raged Long Chen. At this time, Long Chen's eyes were about to spit flames. His killing intent had risen to his peak. He really did want to use the Shen Tower to kill all these people. The experts of the Shen Dao sect shed their blood and sacrificed their own lives to kill the corrupt path's experts. Now, you want to stretch your greedy claws to their accomplishments? Are you even human? Let me make you a promise right now, whether it's Pill Valley, the ancient races, or even your damn Martial Heaven Alliance, anyone who dares to touch that reward will have to repay it back 10,000 times. Although Long Chen was only a foundation-forging disciple, when he was enraged, his killing intent caused even these life-star experts to turn cold. Although his cultivation base was low, his combat power was immense, comparable to a rank 9 celestial. Most importantly, he had the Dragon Blood Legion with its limitless potential. No one thought he was making an empty promise. I really did see something marvelous this time. The Martial Heaven Alliance is no longer the old Martial Heaven Alliance. The disorder within makes me sigh. At this moment, Yu Qingshan, who hadn't said anything this whole time, finally opened his mouth. Deng Tsang, don't you think you're going a bit too far? Your paternal aunt, Deng Huaqin, is Zhuo Tianyi's mother, and Zhuo Tianyi is Zhuo Tianxiang's paternal cousin. Don't you think it's a bit improper for you two relatives to work together to con the Shen Dao sect? I can't bear to watch it any longer. Yu Qingshan's words caused a huge uproar. Whether it was the righteous experts, the ancient race experts, or the ancient family alliances experts, they all looked oddly at Deng Tsang and Zhuo Tianxiang. They hadn't expected the two of them to have such a hidden relationship. Fuck, no wonder you always help them. So it's a mouse and a snake sharing the same hole. How did you even have the face to show yourself and act as a mediator? Deng Tsang, shouldn't you just kill yourself out of shame? Guo Ran was the first to break into curses. At first, Guo Ran and the others had thought that Deng Tsang had been sent to smooth things over by the Martial Heaven Alliance. But now it turned out he had been colluding with Pill Valley from the start. Deng Tsang and Zhuo Tianxiang's expressions were ugly. They hadn't expected such a secret was known by Yu Qingshan. It had to be known that even within their families, only very few people knew this secret. Absolute nonsense, raged Deng Tsang. Deng Tsang, are you questioning my trustworthiness as a businessman? Alright, then I'll prove that as a businessman, I never spout nonsense. Let's start with your Deng family's history. It all began when Deng Yaoqi was taken in as a disciple of Pill Valley. Hearing the name Deng Yaoqi, Deng Tsang's expression once more changed. He hadn't expected the Huayan sect to know the matters of his Deng family so clearly. If he allowed Yu Qingshan to continue speaking, he would be doomed. I, Deng Tsang, have always acted in an open and above-board manner. I am never biased, nor would I help any relatives dash. There's no need to praise yourself just yet. I am just wondering why the Martial Heaven Alliance would send you for such a major affair. Considering your relationship with Pill Valley, even if you were capable of being unbiased, you aren't fit to be the mediator. Furthermore, anyone with a head can see that you were continuously targeting the Shen Dao sect from the start. Do you think we're all idiots? Deng Tsang, you look down on others too much. This matter isn't as simple as you think. Do you think that by suppressing this matter in secret, it would make everything disappear? You're wrong. Even if I hadn't brought up your relationship, the countless experts paying attention to this in the dark would have uncovered this eventually. This matter has shaken the entire Eastern Xian region. For you to selfishly abuse your position to target the Xiantian Dao sect? Don't argue just yet. I'm not a judge, so I don't care about these things. All I'm saying is that you should prepare yourself. Whether the Martial Heaven Alliance wants to be just this time or whether they have to bend to public pressure, you, Deng Tsong, will definitely not have a good ending. If I were you, I wouldn't waste your little time remaining on arguing. The Xiantian Dao sect will definitely send a complaint to the Martial Heaven Alliance, so you should think about how you want to pass the rest of your life. Deng Tsong was pale as paper. Now he was really afraid. At first, he had just received a simple request from Pill Valley to act as a witness in this matter. Originally, Pill Valley was planning on eradicating the Xiantian Dao sect, and they had invited Deng Tsong to avoid having the Martial Heaven Alliance interfere. All Deng Tsong had to do was say that he thought all the blame rested on the Xiantian Dao sect, and he was powerless to do anything about their destruction. But things didn't go according to Pill Valley's plan. Now, Pill Valley hadn't been able to obtain anything, so Deng Tsong had set his sights on the Xiantian Dao sect's reward. This reward was currently still in the Martial Heaven Alliance. Due to the fact that the Xiantian Dao sect had also killed people from the ancient races and Pill Valley, they hadn't immediately sent it. That was because once they sent it, they would be accepting that the Xiantian Dao sect had made great merit this time, which would also be accepting that Li Tianxian had been right to kill those experts from Pill Valley and the ancient races. That was why the reward had been pushed back to until this matter was over. Yu Qingshan hadn't come with any intention of criticizing the Martial Heaven Alliance. After all, from a business standpoint, amicability made you rich. Making enemies everywhere wouldn't make you rich. But Deng Tsong had gone too far, and Yu Qingshan hadn't been able to help himself. Deng Tsong, don't worry. The Xiantian Dao sect will definitely investigate this matter to the end. I really want to know just what kind of existence the Martial Heaven Alliance is. If it's the sum of the Martial Heaven continent's righteous path, then why would they instead help outsiders suppress their own people? I don't think there's any need for such an alliance to exist. Or perhaps I should say, how many people like you, Deng Tsong, are in the alliance? Is the change in the Martial Heaven Alliance related to certain powers infiltrating the alliance? Asked Long Chen indifferently. Yu Qingshan nodded inside. Each one of Long Chen's words was pointed right at the vitals of the Martial Heaven Alliance. If they didn't give the Xiantian Dao sect an explanation, they would have to bear the fury of the righteous path. This was different from Pill Valley. The Martial Heaven Alliance was an existence elected by the righteous path. It only existed to unify the righteous path's powers against the corrupt path. The operation fees of the Martial Heaven Alliance were paid by the taxes of each righteous sect. And so it was those very sects that the Martial Heaven Alliance depended on. Now that Deng Tsong and Zhuo Tianxiang's relationship was exposed, the fact that the Martial Heaven Alliance had worked together with Pill Valley to suppress the Xiantian Dao sect would definitely cause huge waves in the continent. This was something none of the righteous sects would allow. Just a few sentences from Long Chen caused terror to appear on Deng Tsong's face. He could already tell just how serious this matter was. He thought of Dan Teng and how he had been killed to show Pill Valley's innocence. For a moment, everyone was silent. The Xiantian Dao sect's side icily stared at these sanctimonious fellows with disdainful expressions. The faces of Pill Valley and the ancient races had been slapped thoroughly. They didn't even have the slightest ability to counterattack now. Their only choice was to scram. Staying here didn't give them any hope, but leaving would cause them to lose all their face. They were stuck. Long Chen, weren't you struck by the corrupt path's underworld soul ghost curse? How are you completely fine? Asked a righteous expert suddenly. Does it have anything to do with you? Do you have some problem with me being alive? Sneered Long Chen. This person was a true idiot. He was asking to be cursed. That righteous expert's words immediately brought everyone's attention to Long Chen. That underworld soul ghost curse was one of the corrupt path's most vicious curses. Those who were cursed would definitely die. For Long Chen to still be alive, could it be he had already undone the curse? Long Chen, I heard you have the ability to fight rank 9 celestials. I wonder if that's true or false. Do you dare to have a battle against me? Don't worry, Luo Mingho, will not bully you. You are in the foundation forging realm, so I will also suppress my cultivation base to the foundation forging realm. If you can receive 3 blows from me, it will count as your win. At this moment, the rank 9 celestial from the Ancient Family Alliance finally opened his mouth to challenge Long Chen to a battle. Furthermore, this Luo Mingho's tone was exceedingly arrogant. To say he would only use 3 moves, he was intentionally humiliating Long Chen. My Xiantian Dao sect has never had any conflicts with your Ancient Family Alliance. Are you trying to pick a fight? Long Chen didn't even look at Luo Mingho. He spoke directly to the leader of the Ancient Family Alliance's group. For young disciples to exchange pointers is completely normal. Where did this hostility come from? Said that elder indifferently. Long Chen's gaze was cold. He was just about to speak when Meng Qi flew into the air, wearing a bright dress that made her seem like a pure fairy. If you want to fight, I'm willing to accept your challenge. With Long Chen's status and position, not just anyone is qualified to challenge him, said Meng Qi. Her voice was beautiful, but her eyes were cold. Meng Qi had a calm and peaceful nature, but some people were just too hateful. Despite knowing Long Chen was afflicted with a curse and couldn't fight, they intentionally wanted to humiliate him. Luo Mingho was instantly captivated by Meng Qi's beauty. Thinking of how intimately Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er had treated Long Chen, inconcealable envy appeared in his eyes. With a cold snort, he also flew into the air. Boss, maybe you should let me go instead, said Gu Yang worriedly. He was worried Meng Qi wouldn't be a match for Luo Mingho. Right now, in the Dragon Blood Legion, Long Chen was under the effects of the curse and couldn't fight, Wild was in slumber, and Yu Zifeng's soul was in his sword. The strongest ones in the Dragon Blood Legion should be he and Tang Wan. Long Chen shook his head. If you want to find someone in the Dragon Blood Legion who can fight against a rank 9 celestial, right now the only one is Meng Qi. Long Chen was aware of the truth, as was Tang Wan, or she'd have long since attacked. What's so good about Long Chen? There's no need for a flower to waste away in manure. It'd be better for you to join my Ancient Family Alliance. Luo Mingho looked at Meng Qi with adoration. This bastard must want to die. All the Dragon Blood warriors were infuriated by Luo Mingho. He was clearly humiliating Long Chen by inviting Meng Qi right in front of him. Long Chen indifferently looked at Luo Mingho. He had seen many people like him who relied on their talent, their cultivation base, and their background. They viewed others as beneath them. From the eastern wasteland to the central plains, Long Chen didn't even know how many such people he had killed. He had already grown numb. Meng Qi shook her head and sighed. I didn't want to kill anyone, but why did you have to be so loathsome? And you're so sinister too. Despite knowing that Long Chen is under a curse and can't fight, and his cultivation base is still at the foundation forging realm, you continuously try to humiliate him. If Long Chen wasn't cursed and his cultivation base was at the Jade Core realm, you wouldn't even be fit to carry his shoes. Your strutting around has angered me, so you should be careful. When I attack, it won't be to exchange pointers with you, but to take your life. Meng Qi's voice clearly rang in everyone's ears. Her voice was like immortal music, but everyone could feel her fury and killing intent. Take my life? Ha, what a huge joke. Do you want to bet? How about if you lose, you become my Dao companion? Sneered Luo Mingho. But Meng Qi formed a hand seal, and 8 colored runes appeared behind her. Suddenly, her soul energy erupted. When Meng Qi summoned the manifestation of a rank 8 celestial, all the life star experts' expressions changed. Even they felt their souls shake. That meant Meng Qi's spiritual strength was so strong that it could even threaten them. It had to be known that this was just the release of her aura, not an attack targeted toward them. From this, it could be seen that Meng Qi's soul energy had been condensed to an extremely terrifying level. Just as Meng Qi summoned her cry of the heavenly Daos, a huge figure appeared behind her. It was humanoid and 30 meters tall, with a sword in one hand and a pair of wings on its back. It immediately slashed its sword at Luo Mingho. A little rank 8 celestial dares to challenge me? Lu Mingho let out a single relaxed punch and didn't even summon his manifestation. There was a violet ring on his finger, which was a powerful soul item. It unleashed violet light that wrapped around his fist. Boom. The sword was easily blocked by Luo Mingho, but his expression suddenly changed, because his soul item was actually not able to completely absorb Meng Qi's spiritual attack. He immediately felt like a million needles were stabbing his mind, and he almost shrieked. The illusory figure once more slashed out its sword. Its movements were nimble and quick, as if it came from an expert of the sword Dao who was unleashing consecutive strikes. 9 flowers manifest the heavenly Daos. Luo Mingho immediately summoned the peak manifestation of a celestial. Heaven and earth trembled as all the heavenly Dao energy in the world was stripped away. All the experts present felt the amount of heavenly Dao energy they could use sharply drop. This was the most domineering aspect of rank 9 celestials. As long as they summoned their manifestations, they would be able to suppress all other celestials. Luo Mingho once more sent out a fist, and this time, there were countless heavenly Dao runes wrapped around it. In front of this terrifying heavenly Dao energy, the illusory figure Meng Qi had summoned instantly shattered. But just as it did, they felt something was off. Why had the sky suddenly darkened? What's that? Just at this moment, they realized a huge figure had appeared in the sky. A claw smashed down, its speed so great that space rumbled. An ear-piercing sound came from it. Boom. It happened so suddenly that Luo Mingho didn't even have time to use a weapon. He could only form a hasty hand seal, condensing a 9-colored runic barrier in front of him. That runic barrier was incomparably tough, as it was one of the special defensive arts of a rank 9 celestial. But the claw suddenly unleashed strange fluctuations, and the shield was instantly pierced. The claw continued at Luo Mingho without pausing. What? Now Luo Mingho was really shocked. He had never expected one of his strongest defensive moves to be so easily broken. His body suddenly began to shine. He punched, unleashing a huge fist image as he flew back. That fist image was shattered by the claw, and then the claw landed on Luo Mingho's body. He immediately vomited blood. Everyone here was shocked by this sudden change. Before they could even understand what was happening, Luo Mingho had been injured. He had only just been sent flying when space shuddered. A huge beak devoured Luo Mingho. Heavens, it's the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. Meng Qi stood atop Cloud's head. Its wings were spread, and countless runes revolved around them. It suddenly skyrocketed into the air. It opened its mouth, and a large earthen pot was spat out of it. That pot seemed ordinary to the eye, and yet it released a terrifying pressure. It was actually an ancestral item. The pot shrank, and a figure flew out of it. It was Luo Mingho, but now he was disheveled and covered in injuries. Blood dyed his robes. It looked like he had been cut by millions of blades. Now Luo Mingho no longer had his old arrogance. Instead, there was fear in his eyes. When he had been swallowed into Cloud's stomach, he had entered a strange space, and within it were countless invisible threads constantly cutting the space. He had been almost turned to dust by these threads. After a moment's struggle, he suddenly realized he was helpless against this power, and he became covered in wounds. If he hadn't had an ancestral item, he'd have definitely died in Cloud's stomach. Now that he had escaped death, he became covered in cold sweat. Spirit net traps all life. He had only just escaped when the world shuddered. An invisible spiritual net covered the air around him. He instantly felt like his body was bound by spiritual strength, and he became unable to move. After obtaining the myriad spirit diagram, Meng Qi had only managed to activate a portion of its power and obtain a small part of its inheritance. But it had still increased her power by a terrifying amount. As for Cloud, having entered the myriad spirit diagram, it had obtained its ancestors' complete inheritance, and was no longer the old Cloud. Countless runes lit up on its wings, and Cloud seemed to split into two. It was like everyone's vision had blurred, and a second identical cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow appeared. That second cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow shot at Luo Mingho. Luo Mingho hastily tried to use his ancestral item to block, but he realized his spiritual strength was greatly restricted by Meng Qi's soul art, and his speed had dropped by half. The earthen pot had only just managed to appear in front of him, but he couldn't even activate any of its power before Cloud's attack struck him. Boom! Space shuddered. The second cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow vanished, while Luo Mingho and his earthen pot were blown into the distance. Luo Mingho slammed into the ground and continued all the way out of the Xiantian Plaza. According to reason, such a huge impact would definitely smash a hole in the ground. But just as Luo Mingho had been about to hit the ground, the Xiantian Tower had lit up, and a golden light had appeared on the bricks. The ground was fine, but Luo Mingho violently vomited blood, not even knowing how many of his bones had broken. Everyone was shocked. A rank 9 celestial was actually being beaten so one-sidedly? The sky suddenly dimmed and Meng Qi stood atop Cloud's head, slowly descending. Cloud's huge body shone with rainbow light, making it look like a rainbow starry sky. Despicable. To actually use external power, and what a brazen beast. Seeing Luo Mingho being beaten, one of the life star experts of the Ancient Family Alliance flew out in front of Cloud, attempting to block it. But he was instantly killed by a golden light from the Xiantian Tower. Within my Xiantian Dao sect, try to follow the rules. If you want to die, just say it directly and I'll help you, announced Long Chen. Cloud's power even shocked Long Chen. Right now, it was truly terrifying. Atop Cloud's head, Meng Qi had completely bound Luo Mingho with her spiritual strength. Suddenly, Cloud slammed down toward the ground. Cloud was so fast that it looked like a huge rainbow star had smashed into the ground. The Ancient Family Alliance's experts all turned pale. None of them would have thought that the seemingly frail Meng Qi, an immortal fairy-like existence, would actually be so vicious and launch a death blow at Luo Mingho. Each one of her attacks had been merciless. Her spiritual attacks were to give the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow a chance to attack. After 3 consecutive attacks, Luo Mingho was in desperate straits. With an explosive sound, Cloud flew to the ground and smashed its wing at Luo Mingho. The entire Xiantian Dao sect shook fiercely. But Meng Qi saw that Cloud's attack had missed. Luo Mingho had used some unknown technique to escape her spiritual lock and vanish. Die, slut. Just at this moment, a furious roar rang out, and the space behind her split open. A sword pierced toward her back. The attacker was Luo Mingho. There were spots of light covering his body now. It was like he was in between reality and illusion, having no substance to his body, but his attack contained a heaven-toppling power. This sword would definitely cause a fairy to fall if it struck Meng Qi's body. Luo Mingho hated Meng Qi now. She had caused him to lose face, and so he truly wanted to kill her. But just as his sword was about to reach her body, a rainbow feather dress appeared around Meng Qi's body, and the runes on its feathers lit up, forming a barrier that protected Meng Qi's back. Luo Mingho's incomparably sharp attack instantly rebounded upon contact with the rainbow feather dress's defenses. An ancestral item? Luo Mingho was shocked. He hadn't expected Meng Qi to have an ancestral item protecting her. Just as he was shocked, a large claw slammed toward him. Luo Mingho slashed his sword at Cloud's claw. Sparks flew. Cloud was fine, but Luo Mingho was forced back. Luo Mingho couldn't help being shocked. Just at this moment, someone from the Ancient Family Alliance warned him, "That's a cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow. Its physical body is powerful, and its speed is peerless. Be careful." Cloud suddenly let out a bird cry, and the runes on its feathers began to light up with a mysterious cadence. It opened its mouth, and a black light suddenly shot at Luo Mingho. "Watch out! That's the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow's innate divine ability, the life-devouring light ray." The leader of this group from the Ancient Family Alliance couldn't help being shocked. He had a certain understanding of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow, and it was precisely because of that understanding that he was so shocked. This life-devouring light ray was a shocking divine ability that allowed the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow to unleash its devouring abilities even outside its stomach. It had to be known that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow's strongest point was their devouring power. And this life-devouring light ray was formed by condensing the devouring energy in their stomachs into a ray of light. It was a terrifying attack. Legend was that only 10th-rank cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows were capable of unleashing this move. But the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow in front of them was only at the 9th rank. The black light was incredibly fast. This terrifying attack hadn't taken Cloud any time to cast. This was the terror of a magical beast. It arrived in front of Luo Mingho in an instant, and he didn't even have time to use his earthen pot. All he could do was condense heavenly Tao energy into layers of shields before him. 18 layers instantly appeared, which could be called a terrifying defense. But what shocked everyone was that these layers of defenses were unable to bear a single attack from the black light, and were easily pierced. Finally, the black light pierced Luo Mingho's shoulder. His entire arm vanished along with his shoulder, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood, shocked. Only now did he realize that his heavenly Tao energy was unable to suppress that strange black light. Its bizarre energy had instantly consumed his flesh, and most shocking of all, his heavenly Tao energy was unable to heal his injury. Some kind of energy was crazily absorbing his life energy. All his heavenly Tao energy could do was suppress that devouring energy, but it couldn't heal him. Just at this moment, one of Cloud's wings slashed toward him like a huge heavenly blade. Bastard, this time doesn't count. Just wait. The heavily injured Luo Mingho was no longer able to use that strange movement art he used before. With a furious roar, he crushed a talisman and vanished. A void-breaking talisman. Everyone's expression changed. To be able to teleport a person from within the Xiantian Dao sect's grand formation, probably only a void-breaking talisman was capable of doing so. It was unexpected that Luo Mingho had such a precious treasure. That void-breaking talisman was incredibly precious. Even the hall masters of the Xiantian Dao sect had only ever heard of such things. As expected, it's just as the Eastern Wasteland Bell said. Peak heavenly geniuses aren't so easy to kill. Ordinary experts aren't able to affect their golden fate lines, and even if they can take the advantage, they still won't be able to kill them. This is the karmic luck of peak heavenly geniuses. Long Chen sighed inside. Meng Qi had definitely managed to obtain an absolute advantage over Luo Mingho, but she wasn't able to kill him in the end. That was because of his karmic luck. In truth, Long Chen was very clear on the fact that the reason Meng Qi was able to suppress him so heavily was because that idiot had been too careless. After messing up at the start, he had never managed to turn things around. As a rank 9 Celestial, he had to have many trump cards. Regretfully, he hadn't even had a chance to use them before being defeated and fleeing miserably. If they were comparing their true abilities, even Meng Qi with Cloud wouldn't necessarily be able to defeat him. Right now, everyone stared in shock at that fairy-like figure standing atop the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow's head. They had all thought that the strongest expert of the Xiantian Dao sect's junior generation would be Long Chen. But it was a frail-looking woman that had defeated Luo Mingho in just a few breaths' time. She had even almost killed him. If anyone from the ancient families wants to challenge me, you can come. Meng Qi looked at the disciples brought by the ancient family alliance. Those disciples had all mocked and looked down on Long Chen. Even Meng Qi was infuriated. These disciples had truly mocked Long Chen, but that mostly stemmed from their envy. However, now that Meng Qi had displayed such terrifying power, how could they possibly dare to say a word? Goodbye. The ancient family alliance group's leader snorted and cupped his fists slightly before leaving with a gloomy expression. It was unknown whether he was saying goodbye to the ancient races, Pill Valley, or the Xiantian Dao sect. Clearly, the ancient family alliance had only come to watch the fun. But as a result, they were forced to leave dejectedly. They were infuriated. The ancient races won't let this matter end as is. All of you just wait. The ancient races also left, but not without saying some vicious words. Once the Ancient Family Alliance and Ancient Races experts had left, Pill Valley's law enforcer, Zhuo Tianxiang, waved his sleeve and led those righteous experts away. The only ones left were the people from the Martial Heaven Alliance. Deng Tsang's expression was exceedingly ugly, and he was extremely uneasy. If you had known this would happen, would you have still acted that way? The bitter wine you brew will have to be swallowed by yourself sooner or later. I won't be sending you off. Seeing that Deng Tsang seemed to still want to say something, Long Chen directly expelled him. He knew that shameless people had faces thicker than city walls. He would say that this was all a misunderstanding, and that there was still room for discussion. Long Chen couldn't be bothered to waste that time. Deng Tsang glared at Long Chen, but in the end he led his people away. Looking at their departing figures, Long Chen's gaze was ice-cold. Li Tianxian smiled and said, "What, did you not manage to vent your anger?" Long Chen shook his head. Some people are fated to be enemies, and these people should be exterminated as early as possible. Otherwise, they'll cause a disaster sooner or later. There are also some people who curry favor and are no threat on their own, but then they will be used by others to become painful blades. As for whether or not they will become those blades, it depends on whether we can eliminate our enemies first and intimidate them. In truth, sometimes the power of these people who sway whichever way the wind blows is even more frightening than our actual enemies. The most hateful thing about these opportunists was that you wouldn't know when they would stab you in the back. And before they did stab you, you wouldn't be able to touch them. When did it become so complicated? Just attack whoever you find displeasing. Why make it so troublesome? Boss Bao turned his nose up at Long Chen's words. This part of Long Chen's character didn't fit in with them. "Old two, come, let's go drink some wine. Long Chen, you three can come." Boss Bao couldn't waste his time on such troublesome things. He directly pulled Tu Qianshang away to find a place to drink. "Everyone, now that you've come to my Xiantian Dao sect, although I can't offer you any fine wine, I can give you a good place to drink." Li Tianxian waved his hand, and an ancient mirror appeared in the sky. It was the Xiantian Dao sect's reincarnation mirror. Within the mirror, you will be able to see all the scenery of the Xiantian Dao sect. It's the best place to drink wine and discuss the Dao. "Ah, good. Let's go." Boss Bao laughed. Drinking up in the air was definitely appealing. "Xian Master, Sect Leader, Old Man Yu, why aren't you coming as well?" Long Chen suddenly noticed Li Tianxian, Ling Yunzi, and Yu Qingshan hadn't moved. They had no intention of going with them. "We don't really drink wine. I happen to have some good tea here, so we'll drink the tea. You can drink the wine." Li Tianxian smiled faintly. Boss Bao didn't force them. Pulling Tu Qianshang, Long Chen, and the others, he flew directly into the reincarnation mirror in the air. Long Chen didn't know that when they entered the reincarnation mirror. Li Tianxian shook his head and sighed. "I wonder if they can even last an incense stick's worth of time." Long Chen, Bao Buping, and Chang Hao all vomited blood as they fell from the sky. "Those shameless old bastards, they forgot about us after just drinking a bit of cat piss," roared Bao Buping. Long Chen, Bao Buping, and Chang Hao just happened to see an ancient pavilion on a mountain peak as they fell to the ground. Inside, Li Tianxian, Ling Yunzi, and Yu Qingshan were drinking wine, while Zheng Wenlong attended to them. As expected, it wasn't even an incense stick's worth of time. Li Tianxian smiled upon seeing Long Chen's group of three. "Brother Long, what happened?" Zheng Wenlong couldn't help but ask upon seeing their wretched appearances. "Don't even ask. Those shameless bastards, after drinking a few bowls of cat piss, they started fighting," said Long Chen gloomily. When Tu Qianshang, Boss Bao, and the others had entered the reincarnation mirror, they had all been in a good mood. From within the reincarnation mirror, they could see all the scenery in 10,000 miles. It was definitely beautiful. Tu Qianshang had also sincerely treated the bosses to his wine. Each one of them had drunk over 10 bowls right at the start, and as a result, the bosses who were not used to Tu Qianshang's wine instantly began to overflow with battle intent. Without a word, they suddenly began to fight. They had completely forgotten about Long Chen, Bao Buping and Chang Hao. Due to the intense stimulation of Tu Qianshang's wine, the bosses started a fierce, chaotic battle, and their terrifying auras had sent the three of them flying. It was no wonder Bao Buping would curse them. Boss Bao had clearly said that he would bring them to drink wine, but before they had drunk much at all, they ended up vomiting blood. Long Chen supposed he could understand this. With the intense stimulation of that wine, it would have been strange if they didn't start fighting. But the main thing was that they had forgotten about the three of them. If they hadn't run fast enough, they might have been killed. The Xian master truly has foresight. Disciple is filled with admiration. Long Chen bitterly smiled. Clearly, Li Tianxian had long since known this would happen. Otherwise, as the host, there was no way he wouldn't go accompany them. That was lacking manners. But now it was clear just how wise his choice had been. He also realized why Li Tianxian would use a divine item as a place for them to drink. Yes, it provided beautiful scenery, but it also prevented them from damaging the buildings of the sect. Within the reincarnation mirror, they could fight as they pleased. It was two birds with one stone. Long Chen, you've come at the right time. I have to leave so I can say goodbye now, said Ling Yunzi. Sect leader, why do you have to go so soon? Why not stay for a few days? Long Chen was startled. One reason I came was for you, but another is for Zifeng. That child is a rarely seen genius of the sword Dao. With his soul sealed in his sword, it's actually a huge opportunity for him. This is when he can sense the true essence of the sword Dao. I came to bring him back to the Heavenly Sword Gate. Within the Heavenly Sword Gate, there are many opportunities for sword cultivators, so I'll bring him to test his luck. Only then did Long Chen understand. He gave Ling Yunzi a stone coffin containing Yu Zifeng's body. Ling Yunzi looked at Yu Zifeng and nodded. He said goodbye to Li Tianxian and Yu Qingshan, and left with Yu Zifeng. Yu Qingshan also said, I have some urgent matters to attend to, so I won't disturb you any longer. If the Shen Tiandao sect needs anything in the future, you just have to send a message to Wenlong. Despite how Li Tianxian tried to get him to stay longer, Yu Qingshan still left. However, he left behind Zheng Wenlong. Zheng Wenlong was a disciple he viewed extremely highly, and he left everything here to him to handle. Boss Bao and the others stayed in the reincarnation mirror for a full week. Each day, they drank and fought delightedly. On the other hand, Long Chen brought Bao Buping, Chang Hao, and Zheng Wenlong to Crouching Dragon Mountain to celebrate. Although they weren't members of the Dragon Blood Legion, they were people Long Chen trusted greatly. They spent all day drinking and eating, also passing these days happily. This time, the Shen Tiandao sect's show of power had gone perfectly with Long Chen at the helm. They had slapped their opponents' faces. At least for a short time, there wouldn't be anyone who dared to do anything to the Shen Tiandao sect. It gave them precious time to breathe. After the week, Boss Bao found Long Chen and transmitted the fifth form of Split the Heavens to him. Bao Buping had brought out the heaven-splitting divine tablets guidance from Devil Spirit Mountain. Their originally deviated version of Split the Heavens had been corrected. In the future, they would be able to use Split the Heavens with even greater power. Boss Bao had Long Chen change a few mistakes in his technique. Regretfully, Long Chen couldn't use his spiritual yuan, so he could only forcibly remember this. But he had no way of practicing. As for Boss Bao, he actually couldn't display it to him, because he had cultivated in the old form of Split the Heavens for too long. The way that he used it had been set in stone, and fixing it would be 1,000 times more difficult for him. That was why Long Chen, Bao Buping, and Chang Hao would be able to correct the mistakes in their Split the Heavens much faster. After that, Boss Bao and the other bosses brought away Bao Buping and Chang Hao. Tu Qianshang left Long Chen a few jugs of his fierce wine. He told him that he had originally brought much more, but the bosses had drunk the rest. After Tu Qianshang left, Zheng Wenlong discussed a few things about their future strategy with Long Chen before also leaving. The Shen Tiandao sect returned to its previous calm. After just a few days, people from the Martial Heaven Alliance came. However, they did not include Deng Tsung. It was a completely different group who came to alert the Shen Tiandao sect that they could take out their reward now. Other than that, they brought some news about Deng Tsang. Due to his abuse of power, he had gravely harmed the righteous image of the Martial Heaven Alliance and was currently imprisoned in one of the Alliance's underground prisons. Assuming nothing unexpected happened, he would probably be imprisoned there until he died. Long Chen didn't find this result unexpected at all. The Martial Heaven Alliance had been forced by public opinion to do something so harsh. Even if it was just for others to see, they still had to do it. Li Tianxian politely received them in a very magnanimous way. He even asked for leniency for Deng Tsang, saying that he hadn't had any bad intentions and had only been deceived by others. In truth, this was nothing more than a formality. The matter was already closed. Unless all the righteous powers were gathered, there was no way to change his imprisonment. But by saying this, Li Tianxian gave the Martial Heaven Alliance a way to keep their face, allowing those people to relax. The main reason they had come was to ease any untoward feelings. Li Tianxuan's cooperation delighted them. After all, they were just errand boys. If this went badly, they would be hard-pressed, so they were grateful to Li Tianxian. After confirming what rewards Li Tianxian wanted, they returned in just 3 days with everything. They were simply helping each other out. Li Tianxian didn't make things hard on them, and so to express their gratitude, the long procedure which should have taken several months was done in just 3 days. And they had even personally come to bring the rewards to their door. They had killed a huge number of corrupt experts in Devil Spirit Mountain, and their reward was also huge. It was practically enough to rebuild the entire Shantian Dao sect. That was why Deng Tsang had been so greedy for it. These people had chatted with the others who had previously come to mediate things, and one of them secretly told Li Tianxian that it was Deng Tsang who had taken the initiative to speak to Pill Valley. His goal had been to devour this reward. Once he sent this reward to Pill Valley would split it with him. This reward was enough to make countless sects greedy. But Li Tianxian decided to take a huge pile of cultivation resources as the reward. He was planning on using this entire reward on strengthening their current generation of disciples. Previously, they hadn't had the money to raise their disciples. In truth, the so-called geniuses were made through piling resources. No matter how talented a disciple was, without any resources as support, their talent would be wasted. Whether it was the cultivation environment, the support of formations, trials, weapons, pills, and medicines, they all needed money. Right now, the reason the Dragonblood Legion was so strong didn't even have much to do with the Shantian Dao sect. They had grown by relying on Long Chen's efforts. As for that huge battle, if it hadn't been for the Dragonblood Legion, the Shantian Dao sect wouldn't have been able to devour such a huge piece of meat. They would have been forced to share it with others, and perhaps at that time, their share of meat might even be snatched away. Now Li Tianxian had used the Dragonblood Legion to earn such a huge amount of wealth, and he naturally wouldn't use that wealth to expand the sect. He'd use it all to raise them. The huge amount of wealth that poured into the Shantian Dao sect was immediately used to strengthen the cultivation regions. Everything was rebuilt according to the highest standards. The Dragonblood Legion's disciples were allowed to cultivate in these places freely. As for the other disciples, their rations were increased by hundreds of times. The atmosphere of the Shantian Dao sect completely transformed. It was like a beggar had become a rich person decked in wealth. That kind of feeling made countless disciples smile even in their dreams. Long Chen spent these few days relaxing. He accompanied Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er around the Shantian Dao sect. Long Chen, give me Little Snow's crystal core. Recently, I've learned a strange art. I can use the myriad spirit diagram to nourish Little Snow's soul. Give me the crystal core, and I'll place it within the myriad spirit diagram. Only once Little Snow's soul is strong enough can he take over a powerful creature's body and be reborn, said Meng Qi. Are you sure? Long Chen was delighted to hear this. Little Snow had always been a knot in his heart. Now if they could perhaps find a 9th rank or 10th rank magical beast, then with Meng Qi's help, it really might not be a problem for Little Snow to be reborn. But Long Chen didn't know where his limit was. He didn't want Little Snow to be reborn and then very quickly be unable to keep up with him. He'd rather not suffer that kind of pain again. He wanted Little Snow to keep up with him forever. He had never found a suitable target. Furthermore, he had also been growing increasingly worried about how Little Snow's soul was supposed to take over a powerful creature's body. The myriad spirit diagram is extremely miraculous. Although I'm still learning about it, nourishing Little Snow's soul is no problem. Meng-Chi smiled and placed Little Snow's crystal core into the myriad spirit diagram. According to Meng-Chi, Little Snow's soul would be gently nourished by all the spirit beast diagrams of the myriad spirit diagram. It had to be known that each image of the myriad spirit diagram contained the inheritance of an ancient beast, and there were endless profundities within. According to Cloud, within the specific image of the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow, there was an extremely large space where it could comprehend its ancestors' inheritance. While the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow was also an ancient beast race, and its divine abilities were inherited through its bloodline, its current bloodline had grown sparse. By Cloud's generation, many of their inherited divine abilities had been lost. But the myriad spirit diagram contained their complete inheritance. Even if Cloud could only comprehend a portion of them, its power had still soared to the point where it could fight with a rank 9 celestial. Little Snow's crystal core contained its essence. It was the eastern wasteland bell that had gathered Little Snow's soul into it. Little Snow was now in a state similar to a fetus, which made it the best time to nourish his soul. This kind of unconscious nourishing had no bad side effects. Furthermore, Meng-Chi said that as her power increased, she would be able to unlock more secrets of the myriad spirit diagram. When the time came, Little Snow's soul might grow to an unimaginable point through the myriad spirit diagram's nourishing. Meng-Chi understood Long Chen the best. Little Snow's matter had been a sore point for him. Now with the myriad spirit diagram, at the very least, she could soften that pain. Long Chen, when are you planning on leaving? At the top of a mountain, Tangwana helped Long Chen tidy his collar just like a warm wife looking at her husband who was about to leave for a long time. She was unwilling to part with him. Long Chen looked at Meng-Chi and Tangwa. His heart ached. After only just gathering for such a short time, he had to go again. The underworld soul ghost curse was too powerful. The first volume of the Nirvana scripture was only able to suppress, but not expel it. He needed to take a trip to Pill Valley. Right now, the Xiantian Dao sect had entered a temporary time where they could grow without any enemies attacking them. It was the best time for them to raise their strength. If Long Chen couldn't expel the underworld soul ghost curse, his cultivation base wouldn't be able to grow. The Dragon Blood Legion was rapidly growing, but he hadn't advanced an inch. How could this be acceptable? That was why he needed to take advantage of this precious time to obtain the second volume of the Nirvana scripture. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to face the future. He had actually wanted to leave a few days ago, but he hadn't been willing to part with Meng-Chi and Tangwana. But not leaving was also not an option. This peace was just temporary. He knew that whether it was the ancient races, Pill Valley, or the corrupt path, they weren't going to leave things as they were. When they attacked next time, it would probably be a thunderous blow. He had to raise his power as much as possible before that happened. Furthermore, the Xiantian Dao sect was only a power in the eastern Xian region. The central plains were too huge, and there were still many unknown powers he might have to face. Chu Yao and Yujiqiu also weren't in this region. There had never been a chance to see them. Chu Yao was someone he worried about especially. For him, someone as kind-hearted as her had stepped into the vortex that was the cultivation world without hesitation. Back when they had first left Phoenix Cry, she had left her familiar home, her little brother that she cared about, everything. It had all been for Long Chen. Now they had been apart for years, and he only missed her more. He couldn't keep waiting. He had to increase his power, as he wanted to see them again as soon as possible. Therefore, he had to control himself and couldn't hesitate any longer. Long Chen, no matter what you do, we will always support you. In truth, you've already done very well. No one could do better than you, so don't blame yourself. Meng-Chi gently rubbed Long Chen's cheek. Both Meng-Chi and Tangwana, and even the entire Dragon Blood Legion, were aware that right now, Long Chen was carrying too many things on his back. He had his own bitterness in his heart, but he didn't bring that up. On his own, he carried the entire Dragonblood Legion. They all saw how tiring that must be for him. He was the pillar of the Dragonblood Legion, the soul. Behind his many layers of defenses, there was a soft heart that needed to be cared for and protected. But they were only able to offer him very little. Long Chen felt ashamed of himself when it came to Meng Qi and Tang Wana, while they felt ashamed of themselves. They felt themselves to be useless and unable to help him. What they needed to do right now was let Long Chen do what he had to do in peace. They had to encourage and comfort him. The three of them hugged tightly like chicks shivering in the middle of a storm. They nestled up against each other, sharing and taking each other's warmth. Only that could bring them some comfort. In truth, the undercurrents of the cultivation world were bloody and violent. The cultivation world was far crueler, far more merciless than a storm. Long Chen gave everyone a general outline of their future cultivation. He also gave all the medicinal wine they would need to Meng Qi. It could allow the entire Dragonblood Legion to cultivate quickly without their foundations growing unsteady. In truth, Li Tianxian had already arranged for everything in the resources department. They were all the best possible resources. But this medicinal wine could allow them to cultivate twice as fast with half the effort. At the very least, in the Jade Core realm, the entire Dragonblood Legion would be receiving the treatment a rank 9 celestial would. These resources that could have lasted tens of thousands of years were all used in this one realm. It could be seen how Li Tianxian placed everyone in the Dragonblood Legion. As for when the Dragonblood Legion advanced to the Soul Transformation realm and above, that was the future. They would have to take things step by step. That very night, Long Chen gathered with the Dragonblood Legion, Hua Xiyu, Zhao Ziyan, Mu Qingxian, Wang Zhen, Su Wemo, and the other people he trusted for a big celebration. Once everyone had collapsed, taking advantage of the darkness of the night, Long Chen stealthily slipped off the mountain. Meng Qi and Tang Wan stood at the gates of the Xiantian Dao sect, watching as that familiar figure slowly faded. Their tears slowly dripped down their faces. "Big sister, why do we have to cultivate? Why can't we live as we please? I don't want to be apart from him so much." Tang Wan held Meng Qi tightly. Meng Qi wiped off her tears and patted Tang Wan on the back. She softly said, "Long Chen is carrying too many things on his shoulders. He doesn't want to part with us either, but he carries more responsibility. He's doing this so that one day, we can all be together without any worries. His current effort is for us, so we also have to work hard on cultivating. We can't hold him back. We have to be his arms so we can help him." "Yes, you're right. I'm going to work hard. I'll help Long Chen." Tang Wan'er nodded, a determined expression flashing on her face. Long Chen stealthily slipped off the mountain in the night. One reason was for safety. The Xiantian Dao sect would tell its people that Long Chen was currently sealed within the Xiantian Tower, and the Xiantian Tower was using its power to suppress the underworld's soul ghost curse. No one could disturb him. The other reason was because he had been afraid of seeing Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er when he was leaving. He didn't know that they had only been faking that they were drunk and had secretly watched him leave. After leaving the Xiantian Dao sect, he found a secluded place and took out a mirror. Using some medicinal elixir, he changed his appearance and stared at his reflection. "Hee, Master Long San is back." Long Chen smiled mischievously. This appearance was the same face he had used in the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower. But this time, he made his face appear more mature. After all, 3 years had passed. Right now, the face-changing elixir he had used was of an even higher level. Even Life Star experts wouldn't be able to see through his disguise. In fact, Long Chen had even disguised his eyes, dampening the sharpness that a martial artist would possess. Changing his robes, he checked over himself and didn't see any flaws. He continued on his way. The Eastern Xian capital. It was the most ancient city in the Eastern Xian region, whose history stretched too far back for anyone to calculate. In the Dark Era, it had received a destructive blow and had almost been completely destroyed. After the Dark Era, the Eastern Xian capital had been reconstructed in accordance with its old style. Although the buildings were no longer the original buildings, it still possessed an ancient air. All the various large sects had branches within the eastern Xian capital. This was a good place for them to engage in business and for them to stay in contact. The Pill Tower and Huayan sect's strongholds were also present. As the largest city in the eastern Xian region, it had a very high population, and countless experts were always coming and going. In this region, ancient race experts were often parading themselves ostentatiously. Are you blind? Long Chen was just in the midst of aimlessly strolling when someone in front of him almost crashed into him. He hastily dodged, but as a result, that person disdainfully cursed him. Pow! That ancient race expert had barely finished speaking when a large hand slapped across his face. With an explosive sound, half his face caved in, and he flew into the distance. Countless people let out startled cries and hastily dodged. When he finally stabilized himself, he roared furiously and turned to get his revenge on Long Chen, only to find that he had vanished as if he had never existed. "Human race bastard, if you have guts, get the hell out here," he roared. But after he said this, he noticed countless experts glaring at him. It had to be known that basically all these people were from the human race. Cursing like this was equivalent to cursing them all. Furthermore, there was even a distant life star expert present. That ancient race expert immediately left dejectedly. In a small alley, Long Chen watched as that idiot left. He looked at his own hand and shook his head. This reflex is bad. I didn't even want to slap him before I slapped him. No, I must change this or I'll be exposed. Tidying up his robes, Long Chen entered a nearby restaurant and ate a bit. After asking around for the Pill Tower's position, he paid his bill and went straight to the Pill Tower. The Pill Tower was located in the southern part of the eastern Xian capital. As for the Huayan sect's branch sect, it was located in the northern part of the city. The two of them were about as far from each other as possible. When Long Chen arrived at the Pill Tower, he was stunned by its grandeur. They really had too much money. The tower stretched into the clouds, and it was too high to even see its top. It was made of rainbow gold that was incredibly dazzling under the sunlight. There were 108 high towers in the surroundings of the main Pill Tower, like stars around the moon. It was a powerful visual effect. Tch, a bunch of counterfeit medicine sellers actually make this much money. How completely unprincipled, cursed Long Chen as he looked at the soaring main tower. They really were rich. Long Chen estimated that just the cost of the materials spent on the main tower was greater than 10 Xiantiandao seks. He had investigated Pill Valley's medicinal pills and the pills that circulated on the market. Their quality was not bad, but the medicinal pills that Pill Valley enjoyed a monopoly of had basically all been modified to reduce their medicinal effect. It was clear that Pill Valley had intentionally decreased their effect to make more money from the people. It was no wonder Pill Valley was so powerful. This kind of wealth was truly enough to suffocate countless other sections. "Hey, little fellow, what are you doing looking so shifty-eyed?" Long Chen was at the entrance to the Pill Tower and appraising its splendor when a cold shout rang out. Several of the Pill Tower's disciples were guarding this entrance, and they found Long Chen displeasing to the eye. Naturally, men would hope to be more handsome than others. While Long Chen's face had been changed to no longer be so handsome, it was definitely not ugly. His tall figure was also attractive. However, his robes were broken down, and there wasn't the slightest grandness around him. He didn't look much better than a beggar. If his aura didn't show that he was a foundation-forging disciple, these disciples would have probably kicked him away already. Brothers, please forgive me. I'm actually one of Pill Valley's disciples and came from the eastern wasteland. I encountered a crisis in the martial heaven searing and almost died, so I only managed to get here now, said Long Chen. Pill Valley's disciple? Those disciples' expressions immediately changed. They were just disciples of the Pill Tower. It was unexpected that this poor-looking fellow would actually say he was from Pill Valley. They couldn't quite believe it. "Everyone, please don't mind my broken robes. I still have a few snacks in my pocket, so I'll trouble you to report that the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower's competition's champion, Long San, has arrived and is asking for help. I hope you won't laugh at me for this little gift." Long Chen handed over several small bottles. Each of them was filled with liquid. High-grade soul-nourishing elixir? Those disciples were startled. They had definitely been suspecting this fellow of being a swindler, but seeing this soul-nourishing elixir, they immediately felt more trust toward him. They had Xiantian realm cultivation bases. This high-grade soul-nourishing elixir was extremely precious to them, and what they needed most at this moment. Seeing that this poor fellow was actually able to take out this much, their opinion of him immediately rose several levels. They immediately put away the soul-nourishing elixir. Seeing their experienced movements, Long Chen knew that they were experts in doing that. They probably accepted quite a few bribes like this normally. Yes, just wait here. I will go alert the higher-ups. Money could make even ghosts work. Very quickly, a middle-aged man was brought over. You say you are from the Eastern Wastelands Pill Tower? Do you have any proof? The middle-aged man frowned upon seeing Long Chen. He clearly found Long Chen's appearance to be a bit hard to accept. How could a Pill Tower's disciple end up looking so destitute? This is the identity badge I obtained for taking first at the competition. Long Chen handed over a golden badge to the middle-aged man. That was what he had obtained in the Pill Tower, and it was a token of Pill Valley. Come with me. That middle-aged man's expression softened slightly upon seeing it. Long Chen followed him into a courtyard. After 2 long corridors, they arrived at the main tower. When he entered the main tower, he saw that the inside was even greater than what it appeared to be. There had to be a spatial formation present. Inside the tower was actually a lake, and there was a beautiful island at the center. This scene was like one out of a painting. They had only just stepped onto the green island when they saw a group of people standing there. The middle-aged man beckoned to Long Chen to not move. Protector Zhua, the Xiantian Dao sect is acting carefully, and Li Tianxian hasn't given us any opportunity. We won't be able to do anything to the Xiantian Dao sect temporarily. A voice rang out. Protector Zhua? Long Chen acted like he was just curious and tilted his head over. He saw over 10 people up ahead speaking in a small pavilion at the core of the island. What surprised Long Chen was that it was Zhuo Tianxiang and the other people he had brought from Pill Valley. Do you not want your life? Lower your head. Long Chen had only just taken a glance when the middle-aged man hastily gave him a spiritual message. Long Chen acted panicked and lowered his head. He couldn't understand. It had already been weeks since that matter. What were these people still doing here? Let them be arrogant for now. Have you done everything I told you to do? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang. Everything's arranged. All the sects who helped us received a discount on the medicinal pills they want to buy. As for the sects whose life star experts died, we've given them their compensation. It's just that you think this compensation is a bit painful, said Zhuo Tianxiang lightly. Yes. Is there a need to compensate them so much? During exceptional times, we have to use exceptional methods. After being caught unprepared by Li Tianxian, we have to win those people over. Otherwise, wouldn't their hearts turn cold? Snorted Zhuo Tianxiang. As expected, Protector Zhua is far-sighted. Disciple cannot compare. Long Chen rolled his eyes. How shameless. Had this person done this just to suck up to Zhuo Tianxiang? There are still many things you need to learn. Since Dan Sheng has died and the higher-ups don't have a suitable replacement yet, you can be the temporary tower master here. Whether or not you can keep this position will be up to your own skill. Zhuo Tianxiang also looked down on this person's bootlicking. He really didn't have any skill in this regard. Many thanks. That person hastily bowed in thanks. Zhuo Tianxiang waved his hand. Report on things happening in the other areas. The ancient races and ancient family alliance have decided to temporarily not do anything to the Xiantian Dao sect. Most likely they are afraid of them now. As for the Bloodkill Hall, I sent people to communicate with them, but their reply was vague. All they said was that their target is Long Chen. I can't tell their attitude. Those shameful fellows are just like prostitutes wanting memorial arches erected for them. They actually care about some stupid rule of only assassinating people in the same realm. There's no need to bother with those idiots. What about the corrupt path? Snorted Zhuo Tianxiang. The corrupt path is infuriated by their defeat, But the strange thing is that they aren't preparing any large movements. I can't see through what they're intending. Zhuo Tianxiang was silent for a moment. There's nothing strange about it. I heard the corrupt path has given birth to countless demon-class geniuses in the past few years. Each one of them is shockingly powerful. That female called Leng Yuan especially, she's a demon amongst demons. Perhaps in the corrupt path's eyes, Long Qin isn't a big threat any longer. As for the Martial Heaven Alliance's side, they sent news. Now the timing's awkward. In the future, there's no need for you to say it. Have them lie low, and once this gust dies down, we'll continue where we left off. Have you been able to find Xian Jizi? Asked Zhuo Tianxiang. That fellow is being targeted by everyone, and so we couldn't find where he's hiding. That fellow has harmed too many people, and after the Xiantian Dao sect exposed their proof, countless other experts appeared and exposed even more of his wicked deeds. No one dares to form a relationship with him for fear of being implicated. If you can contact him in secret, it would be good. After all, he was once a disciple of Heavenly Fate Island. His ability to see through fate is very powerful, and we need such a helper. Furthermore, I'm sure he hates the Xiantian Dao sect as well. Working together with us is his only option. But remember, it must be kept secret, said Zhuo Tianxiang. Yes. All right, since everything's arranged, I have to return to Pill Valley to give my report. Zhuo Tianxiang had a conflicted expression. This report wasn't so easy to give as Pill Valley had been slapped viciously by Long Qin. The reason Zhuo Tianxiang hadn't left even after all this time was because he was cleaning up his mess, doing his best to deal with the aftermath and reducing the damage as much as possible. That way, he would have more confidence when he returned to Pill Valley. After all, it wasn't his fault that this matter had been ruined, but that he was simply unlucky. No one else would have been able to do better than him. Congratulations, Protector. Bastard. Wei Shan, who said you could come in? Only at this moment did someone notice Long Qin and the middle-aged man. Zhuo Tianxiang and the others' expressions sank. They had been in the midst of discussing such a secret matter, but someone had been eavesdropping. Killing intent instantly filled the air. Long Qin's face turned green. What kind of heaven-defying luck was this? Was he about to be killed to keep things quiet? How could he possibly be that unlucky? Who are you? The new Tower Master, who hadn't even been officially appointed, already began to act with the grand prestige of a Tower Master. He harshly shouted at Long Qin. Reporting to Tower Master, this person is... The middle-aged man who had brought Long Qin in was covered in sweat. He was one of the higher-ups of this pill tower. That was why he had the authority to bring Long Qin here. But he hadn't expected them to be discussing secret matters in a meeting that was supposed to have been over a long time ago. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. He couldn't interrupt them, and he couldn't leave. He could only quietly stand in the distance without moving. Facing the interrogation of the new Tower Master, he hastily reported everything he knew about Long Qin, even offering up his identity badge. Hearing that he was the champion of the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower competition, they were all dumbfounded. Zhuo Tianxiang carefully examined and confirmed that the badge was from Pill Valley. No one could fake such a thing. His ugly expression faded slightly. According to Pill Valley's agreement, you had to come to Pill Valley within 3 years after obtaining this badge. You've already missed that time frame. What kind of sacred place do you think Pill Valley is? How dare you come late? The new Tower Master shook his head at Long Qin disappointedly. What kind of place was Pill Valley? Even the most talented alchemy geniuses of the Central Plains wouldn't necessarily have the qualifications to join. The Eastern Wasteland was a desolate village in comparison. Pill Valley only gathered disciples from there once every 100 years. In truth, that was just to play their part. Pill Valley didn't really care about them. The Central Plains Pill Towers had similar competitions every 10 years, while the Eastern Wasteland only had such a thing once every 100 years. Just from that, it could be seen how great the difference was between the levels of the Eastern Wasteland and the Central Plains. The Eastern Wasteland's competition was nothing more than a formality for Pill Valley. Those who could obtain such qualifications in the Eastern Wasteland were all simply lucky. Considering their circumstances in the eastern wasteland, the disciples brought over to the Central Plains would be far from outstanding. So for them to enter Pill Valley was a huge fortune, but Long Chen had actually come late, wasting his fortune. Most unfortunate of all, this badge had his name and handprints on it. Others couldn't even use the badge in his stead. That was why even the new Tower Master felt regret. But there was no way around it. I had something to do and couldn't leave with the Tower Ancestor at that time. When I crossed the martial heaven searing on my own, I was trapped by sea demons, and my flying boat was destroyed. I had to fly all the way here on my own. That's why it took so long. But as soon as I arrived in the Central Plains, I rushed on over here. Long Chen shrugged helplessly. You flew over? Everyone's expressions changed. Seeing Long Chen's wind-worn appearance and his clothes that looked like they were about to fall apart, they immediately understood. You flew for 3 years and weren't eaten by sea demons? I suppose you could count yourself lucky. Bring out your pill flame for me to see, said Zhuo Tianxiang. A flame rose in Long Chen's hand. Many different fluctuations came from it. A beast flame? Those experts were all speechless. The new Tower Master roared, Are you playing with us? This trash-merged beast flame is something even my Pill Tower's disciples would look down on. But I used this merged flame to take first place at the competition. If you don't believe me, you can check the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower's records, said Long Chen, aggrieved. He naturally couldn't expose his earth flame. The soul-devouring violet flame's ranking was too high, and he had used it when fighting Gray Yen. Furthermore, he had truly used this merged flame in the Eastern Wasteland. Even if they checked, he wouldn't have to worry. Zhuo Tianxiang and the others shook their heads. The Eastern Wasteland had actually declined to the extent that this trash flame had actually taken first place. I don't have time to bother with this matter. You're late, so you've already lost your qualifications to enter Pill Valley. If you had any outstanding areas, perhaps Protector Zhuo might be able to make an exception for you and bring you in, but you, the new Tower Master, shook his head. This little fellow should stay behind at your Pill Tower. Properly look after him. After saying this, Zhuo Tianxiang turned to leave. Hearing those last 4 words, to properly look after him, Long Chen knew that this bastard was definitely telling the Tower Master to make him secretly disappear. Senior, I experienced countless dangers to come from the Eastern Wasteland through the martial heaven searing. Please, just give me a chance, shouted Long Chen. But Zhuo Tianxiang ignored him. He began to walk away, not wanting to waste time on Long Chen. Long Chen cursed and clenched his teeth. How was he so unlucky that everything always went awry? He suddenly extended his hands, and 10 threads of flame shot out of his fingers, forming a flame net in the air. This flame net caused Zhuo Tianxiang to pause. The powerful soul energy and control Long Chen displayed had moved him. To control 10 threads of flame and have them interweave in the air was a dazzling sight. The 10 threads interwove but never clashed. They all maintained a set distance from each other. Your control's not bad, but your spiritual strength is only above average. Zhuo Tianxiang shook his head, once more preparing to leave. Long Chen cursed Zhuo Tianxiang. He had an urge to slap him. Boom! Heaven and earth shook as flame runes suddenly appeared behind Long Chen. Sacred chanting filled the air. In that instant, everyone's expressions changed. They looked at Long Chen, filled with disbelief. Is this trump card of mine enough to win me the qualification to enter Pill Valley? Long Chen had summoned the Nirvana scripture. You're Long Chen. You bastard, you dare to play with me? Zhuo Tianxiang's expression suddenly twisted, and he grabbed Long Chen, looking like he wanted to bite him to death. Long Chen's expression was one of complete panic. I'm not Long Chen. I'm Long San. You have the wrong person. Ha, how brazen. You actually dare to act stupid in front of me. Whether or not you're Long Chen will be clear after a soul search. Zhuo Tianxiang smiled sinisterly. It was no wonder he had felt that this little fellow was familiar. And that feeling had filled him with loathing. With his status, he was more than capable of bringing Long Chen into Pill Valley. It wasn't some major thing. The main thing was that he disliked this brat. Now that Long Chen had summoned the Nirvana scripture, the first thing Zhuo Tianxiang thought of was him. Not caring about Long Chen's struggles, he pointed a finger at his head. Long Chen's body suddenly shook. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist as a vast spiritual strength poured into his mind, investigating his memories. At first, Zhuo Tianxiang's expression was twisted, but then he became shocked. As he went through Long Chen's memories, his sinister smile disappeared. He's really not Long Chen. Zhuo Tianxiang released Long Chen disappointedly. He had finished rifling through his memories and seen his entire past. This person truly wasn't Long Chen. He was Long San. Protector Zhuo, are you sure he's not Long Chen? Asked the new tower master. He's not. I went through all his memories and saw everything in the eastern wasteland, sighed Zhuo Tianxiang. It was a disappointment that he hadn't managed to get Long Chen's memories. As he had gone through Long Chen's past, he had seen him take an alchemy guild master named Yun Qi as his master, how he had cultivated to the point that he managed to take first place in the Pill Towers competition, and how he had run into a struggle on the vast sea and flown to the Central Plains. In truth, other than the memories from the Pill Tower, the rest were all fake. They were what Long Chen had made for his guise as Long San. He had had the reincarnation mirror help him set this up. When an external power tried to touch the restriction the reincarnation mirror had left in his mind, his memories would vanish, leaving behind only these fake memories. When the external power left, his memories would slowly return. Right now, Long Chen was standing there blankly as he recovered his memories, and that appearance was just like someone recovering from a soul search. Even a wily old fox like Zhuo Tianxiang was tricked. Damn it, why does nothing I do ever go smoothly? If I hadn't prepared some trump cards in advance, I really might have been doomed. Long Chen cursed inside. His journey to Pill Valley was already going badly. When would his damn bad luck end? Then Long San probed the tower master. His meaning was whether he was still supposed to properly look after him. Long San's soul energy is very powerful and rarely seen. But because it's been too long since he has refined pills, and his cultivation base advanced too much, he hasn't managed to consolidate his soul energy, making it sluggish. But this isn't a problem. He just needs some pills and some time to recover. He really is a decent sprout. As long as he listens to orders, he can be raised into a genius. I'll bring him with me, said Zhuo Tianxiang. In truth, while Zhuo Tianxiang acted calm, he was extremely shocked. Long Chen's spiritual strength was something he had never seen before from a foundation-forging disciple. His spiritual strength was comparable to a peak soul transformation alchemist. In order to enter Pill Valley, Long Chen had made countless preparations. Right now, his soul was similar to what it would look like after he had spent 3 years not training in it. Now he had erased all of Zhuo Tianxiang's suspicions. Making completely perfect lies wasn't possible, but to create some lies that didn't have any big holes and could last a short time was more than possible for Long Chen. He knew that this wily old fox was already planning some things for him. Saying that he could be raised into a genius if he listened to orders was a subtle warning. Many thanks, Protector Zhuo. I will never forget your great kindness and favor. Long Chen acted like he was going wild with joy. Seeing Long Chen acting this way, Zhuo Tianxiang nodded. He brought him away with his people, going straight for the eastern Xian capital's transportation formations. Senior, call me Protector Zhuo. And stop calling yourself I in front of me. Call yourself Junior or this little one. Do you not even understand such simple manners? Atop a grand flying boat with Pill Valley's insignia, Zhuo Tianxiang coldly chided Long Chen. Starting in the eastern Xian capital, Long Chen had gone with Zhuo Tianxiang through several transportation formations. But there were some places that could not be connected with transportation formations and required flying boats. On the way, Zhuo Tianxiang and the other people from Pill Valley all ignored Long Chen, the winner of the Pill Towers competition. In the end, Long Chen couldn't help but open his mouth, but he was immediately chided. Through this anger, Long Chen could tell that Zhuo Tianxiang still didn't like him. Although his disguise was perfect, Zhuo Tianxiang still saw the shadow of Long Chen on him. However, on this trip to Pill Valley, if he didn't find a good supporter for himself, he probably wouldn't be able to establish himself within, let alone get an opportunity to touch the Nirvana scripture. Cough. Disciple wishes to ask, according to what I remember from when the tower ancestor left, this badge was supposed to last 10 years. Why did it expire? Cough. Great Protector Zhua, why do I count as late? Asked Long Chen. What do you know? It might be valid for 10 years, but the first 3 years are the most important period to build a foundation in Pill Valley. After missing that golden time, there's little value in raising you. Did you think we'd waste so much effort on bringing someone useless to Pill Valley? If your spiritual strength didn't just make the cut, then after missing those 3 years, even with this badge, you wouldn't have the qualifications to enter Pill Valley, said Zhuo Tianxiang coldly. Hearing Zhuo Tianxiang mention this golden time, Long Chen suddenly recalled that the tower ancestors seemed to have mentioned something similar, which was why he had wanted Long Chen to go with him. But Long Chen had refused. Fuck, what a con. He thought he could use this badge to show off his stuff in Pill Valley, but now, why did it feel like he didn't have any status at all? Long San, listen well. It'd be best if you could memorize every word I'm about to say. Zhuo Tianxiang looked at the little brat in front of him. For some unknown reason, the image of that person who had slapped him in the face always appeared, and he had an urge to kill this brat. But he had no choice but to admit that Long Chen's spiritual strength was stunningly powerful and extremely rare. If he was properly raised, he could definitely become an alchemy genius. Of course, that was the only reason he was bringing him. However, before bringing him, Zhuo Tianxiang had his own plans for him. He continued, with your current power, you simply aren't qualified to enter Pill Valley. I simply feel that your spiritual strength is not bad. If you work hard, and if I go all out to raise you, perhaps you will be able to become. Long Chen sneered inside. Once again, Zhuo Tianxiang was playing this kind of game with him. Just looking at him, Long Chen knew what he was thinking. But on the outside, he acted respectful, as if he was afraid of missing a single word. Bringing you into Pill Valley is my favor to you. But it's also part of my duty. You have to listen to me once you enter Pill Valley. If you're obedient, there will naturally be benefits to you. But if you start to get arrogant, let me tell you, your death will be very wretched. To tell you the truth, if you show your pill flame to any of Pill Valley's disciples, you'll make them all collapse in laughter. Within Pill Valley, even geniuses need powerful support. Without anyone to look after you, you won't have anything. Do you understand? From the very beginning, Long Chen had understood this old fox's intentions. He wanted Long Chen to be devoted to him. It seemed Pill Valley's interior was also not completely united. Disciple understands. Disciple will never forget Protector Zhua's kindness and favor. If I betray this oath, let me be struck by lightning, swore Long Chen. Being hit by lightning was nothing to Long Chen, so he didn't care if it really happened. But to an ordinary cultivator, this could cause a heart devil during tribulation, and it was one of the most frightening oaths. Seeing him swear such a heavy oath, Zhuo Tianxiang and the others were all moved. Protector Zhua, if there's anyone you want to kill, I will help you. Long Chen patted his chest. But inside he was thinking, don't worry, I'll definitely help slash you a few times with my saber. Zhuo Tianxiang's expression was a bit rigid. Now that Long Chen had expressed such sincerity, he didn't feel right continuing to mock him. He lightly said, just properly listen and I definitely won't mistreat you. But if you don't do as you're told, I can take back what I've given you at any time. Zhuo Tianxiang's words were a mix of the carrot and stick. But Long Chen was already bored of such a game. Your spiritual strength is too stiff now, and you're unable to refine pills. This is Spirit Activation Pill. It will allow your soul to recover its old flexibility, and at that time, I'll see your alchemy skills. Zhuo Tianxiang handed Long Chen a pill. Long Chen immediately consumed it. He entered one of the flying boat's private rooms to calmly digest the medicinal energy. After he was gone, one of the Life Star experts couldn't help ask, is this Long San really of use? I don't know yet. His soul is in a strange state. It's not powerful but vast like a sea. Even a late soul transformation alchemist wouldn't possess such soul energy. Since soul energy is the foundation of alchemy, this Long San's innate talent is definitely demon class. But we still don't know how his control, alchemy technique, and comprehension are, said Zhuo Tianxiang. To be able to take first place in the Pill Towers competition, he should be not bad, right? The Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower is just some poor desolate shop. Can they raise any outstanding disciples? Even if Long San is an alchemy genius, without anyone to properly raise him, he wouldn't have any outstanding skills. Once his soul's reactivated, we can test him and see if he has the potential to enter the Divine Pill Hall. If he doesn't, then there's no need to waste the effort. Just send him directly to the Pill Order Department, said Zhuo Tianxiang. Protector Zhuo, you're not going to personally tutor him? Your alchemy skills outclass all of ours, asked a Life Star expert. I don't want to. For some reason, I don't like looking at that brat. I'm going to rest and think about how I'm going to give my report, and how I'm going to handle those pedantic bastards' questions, sighed Zhuo Tianxiang, retreating to his own room. 3 days later, Long Chen came out of seclusion. In truth, the stiffness of his soul was just part of his disguise. But to properly act, he only came out after 3 days. The Pill Valley experts immediately had Long Chen refine pills after coming out to see his technique and control. The alchemy ability Long Chen displayed was on the same level as when he had refined pills in the Eastern Wasteland's Pill Tower. Those Pill Valley experts shook their heads. These alchemy arts were too low in grade. They sighed disappointedly. Long San was already a bit too old, and he had spent so much time refining pills with these techniques. To have him start practicing Pill Valley's alchemy arts would require him to completely tear down and rebuild his foundation. It was impossible to change such habits without a few years. However, the comprehension ability that Long San displayed then completely stunned them. He would correct the flaws in his technique in just a few tries and completely adapt to new abilities in just a little while. They immediately began to teach him the most basic alchemy arts of Pill Valley, and Long San only took half a day to completely fix his old habits. His old habits and techniques didn't affect his alchemy at all. In just 2 days, Long San had completely learned Pill Valley's foundation alchemy arts. He could remember any pill formula with just a look. And when refining pills, he would only make a mistake once. He would never make the same mistake twice. Those Life Star alchemists were all shocked. They began to gradually teach him higher difficulty techniques and skills. Long Chen was just cooperating with them. With his pill sovereign memories, he should be the one teaching them. But winning their trust was a step-by-step process. On the way, one of these experts gave him an earth flame seed. Long Chen had no choice but to admit that Pill Valley really had too much money. They just randomly gave him the existence ranked 41st on the Earth Flame ranking. He refined the Earth Flame seed and told Hua Long not to devour it. For now, it was the flame he would have to use to cover up his identity. With this Earth Flame and everyone's guidance, Long San's alchemy arts progressed at astonishing speed each day. These alchemists were all incomparably excited and praised him as an alchemy genius. Even Zhuo Tianxiang was drawn out. He hadn't expected to have found such a treasure. Long San was actually an alchemy genius with shocking comprehension. Thus, Zhuo Tianxiang gave him a top-grade king item medicinal furnace as encouragement. Long San immediately cried tears of gratitude and swore to work hard for Pill Valley. He acted however Zhuo Tianxiang directed him. That loyalty was like Long San would attack whoever Zhuo Tianxiang asked him to with no questions asked. But he found that while Zhuo Tianxiang smiled, that smile was forced. He still couldn't conceal his dislike for Long San. Long Chen knew that no matter how he disguised himself, there would at least be some shadow of his true figure following him. It seemed Zhuo Tianxiang hated him too strongly. Even if he knew Long San wasn't Long Chen, he still didn't like him. Damn it, I have to think of some way to escape his sight. His suspicions of me still haven't been completely erased. What should I do? Being stared at by this bastard all day was very uncomfortable. It felt like a poisonous snake was behind him, capable of biting him at any moment. The flying boat continued onward. It was midday with the sun high in the air when the sky suddenly darkened. Long Chen jumped in shock. Slow the boat down. We've reached the heaven-devouring forest. Zhuo Tianxiang's voice was a bit heavy, and even his expression became solemn. The flying boat slowed down. Long Chen realized that this darkness was actually a thick forest. These are true ancient trees that reach the heavens. These trees truly reached the heavens. They were so huge that even the 300-meter flying boat was like an insect flying past them. The leaves of the trees completely covered the sky, making it so not even the slightest sunlight could reach them. That was why everything was black. Damn, they have to be over 100,000 meters tall. If I have a chance, I have to grab some and plant them in the primal chaos space. Long Chen's heart pounded as he looked at these huge trees. He had an urge to dig up a few of them right now. But these trees were sinister and frightening. They almost looked like fiends. Bursts of evil air came through the flying boat's protections, turning Long Chen's scalp numb. What kind of trees could be so terrifying? Whispered Long Chen. Right now, including Zhuo Tianxiang, all the flying boat's experts had solemn expressions. One of the elders who treated Long Chen well explained, "This forest you see is one of the famed 7 great danger zones, the heaven-devouring forest. Each tree you see is a fiendish life form and incredibly dangerous. Although this is just the border, we still can't be careless. If we provoke a terrifying existence, we probably won't be able to escape. Then why are we going through such a dangerous region? Why not go around?" Long Chen couldn't help but ask. There are things you don't know. After the martial heaven continent went through the battle of the immortal era, it was fractured, and it left behind countless spatial abysses that cannot be crossed. If we want to return to Pill Valley, the closest path is through the edge of the heaven-devouring forest. Although it's dangerous, it's also the fastest way. If we go around, we'd have to go all the way across the martial heaven searing, and it would take at least 2 years. That expert kindly showed Long Chen a map. It was an extremely detailed map of the Central Plains. The Central Plains were wrapped around by the martial heaven searing in a very perfect circle. At the center of the map was a square area marked as the Central Xian region. It was drawn with a specific color. It was like a huge copper coin with the Central Xian region being the center of it. The Eastern Xian region, Western Xian region, Southern Xian region, and Northern Xian region were also of different colors. This was Long Chen's first time seeing such a detailed map. He couldn't help being startled. The 5 regions were inconceivably evenly split. It was like someone had divided them up meticulously. Each of the 4 outer regions was the same size. As for the martial heaven searing, it was a perfect ring of blue. Then from the Eastern Xian region to the Central Xian region, Long Chen saw a black mark. That had to be the spatial abyss that the elder had mentioned. Other than this black mark, there was a green mark as well. On it were the words heaven-devouring forest written in the deep red of old blood. Before Long Chen could carefully look at the rest of the map, the flying boat shuddered as a thick vine suddenly bound them. Damnable headless creatures. We should have burned them to the ground. Cursed Zhuo Tianxiang. That vine was several feet thick and was like a huge python that had caught its prey. It coiled around the flying boat tightly. "Protector Zhuo, what do we do?" asked a life star expert. "Ignore it. We'll smash through it and continue forward. We don't have time to waste," said Zhuo Tianxiang. Divine runes suddenly circulated around the flying boat, and a terrifying energy was unleashed, blowing apart the vine. Long Chen actually heard something akin to a startled cry. "Increase the speed," shouted Zhuo Tianxiang. The flying boat shot out like an arrow. But in that instant, the entire forest went berserk. What shocked Long Chen was that these ancient trees suddenly seemed to come to life, and huge branches slammed at the flying boat. At the same time, terrifying auras began to come from the trees. Those auras were similar to magical beasts, and they were not weaker than soul transformation experts. Countless runes lit up on the flying boat as it charged through the ancient trees. Anything in their way was blown away. Within the endless darkness, the flying boat continued to pierce through the forest. It was like an arrow piercing through tofu. "Have these trees gained spirits? Why are they attacking?" cried Long Chen. "They're not ordinary trees. They're tree demons from the spirit world, a very terrifying life form with immense life energy that makes them difficult to kill. As the flying boat continued onward, it continued to blow apart the trees. Although these trees were powerful, they couldn't stop the flying boat. But suddenly, a huge 3,000-meter figure appeared at the front and smashed a fist at the flying boat. The flying boat was actually knocked back. Long Chen involuntarily crashed forward and had to hold onto a pillar in the flying boat, or he'd smash into the edge of the flying boat. Human race, are you provoking my heaven-devouring forest? A furious roar came from that huge figure. The voice was like scraping metal and unpleasant to listen to. Furthermore, it was very strange. It was not the result of a mental transmission but true sound waves. Only at this time could Long Chen get a look at the giant figure. It was a huge wooden giant. Its head was covered in leaves, and its facial features were very vague. As for its eyes, they were two deep holes. But Long Chen sensed terrifying fluctuations coming from it. It was his first time seeing such a bizarre wooden giant. Since these trees came from the spirit world, the first thing Long Chen thought of was the forest divinity he had encountered in the eastern wasteland. It had also been a tree-shaped life form. But the two were very different. Her aura had been pure and graceful, while these tree giants possessed berserk auras even more violent than a magical beast's. Long Chen also thought of how he had helped the forest divinity gather flesh to activate a blood sacrifice and condense a gate between worlds. At that time, Long Chen had been very curious. That tree divinity had clearly been terrifyingly powerful, more than strong enough to kill magical beasts. But she had said that if it killed creatures on its own, it would absorb their resentment and grievance along with their energy, and that was poison. That tree divinity had also come from the spirit world. Then based on this, did it mean that the spirit world's creatures were split into two types? One type was similar to the forest divinity, while another was like these violent tree demons. Looks like I entered the wrong part of the spirit world last time. I probably entered the territory of these berserk tree demons and not the area of the forest divinity. Long Chen came to a sudden realization as to why his trip with Meng Qi to the spirit world before had been so dangerous. Following the first wooden giant, more and more of them appeared, completely surrounding the flying boat. A strange aura of slaughter filled the air. It's not that my human race is provoking you, but that your heaven-devouring forest goes too far. You are provoking Pill Valley, sneered Zhuo Tianxiang. He appeared at the front of the flying boat, staring coldly at these wooden giants without the slightest fear. According to our ancient agreement, your heaven-devouring forest is allowed to take root here. This place is your domain, but my Pill Valley should have the authority to pass through it. Now, this flying boat not only has Pill Valley's mark, but also contains such dense flame energy. So you knew this was Pill Valley's flying boat, yet you still tried to stop us. What are you intending? Long Chen was shocked. Pill Valley was so powerful? Zhuo Tianxiang was actually able to use Pill Valley's name to intimidate all these tree demons? Was that really possible? Furthermore, what was that ancient agreement? Who had decided on it? Countless questions swirled through Long Chen's mind. He seemed to smell some kind of bad stench. Your Pill Valley can pass, but you must follow the rules. You must go through our domain calmly and quietly so as to not disturb our sleeping life forms. Do you not know that when our children are startled awake, it will take decades just for them to fall asleep again? Sleeping is like cultivating to us. For you to not follow the rules like this, even if we killed all of you, we would be justified. Shouted the leader of the wooden giants. Ha, you really are brazen. Since you're getting arrogant, do you want to come and try it? My Pill Valley could allow you to stay here, but it can also kick you back to the spirit world. If you have the guts, then come. Let's see who has more guts between us. Zhuo Tianxiang laughed and returned into the flying boat, shouting, "Prepare the heavenly flame cloud arrow. If they dare to stop us, release it." Those life star experts didn't tarry. There was a 3-meter sphere within the flying boat, and they pressed their hands against it. Flame runes appeared in the air as they poured the energy of their pill flames into the sphere. Receiving this much energy from so many life star experts at once, the entire flying boat shuddered. The front of it opened up, and a huge ball of light appeared, still growing. A terrifying heat instantly set the air on fire. The trees within 10 miles were incinerated. The tree giants retreated. Although Long Chen couldn't see their expressions, he could guess that they were definitely filled with fear. Over 10 life star experts, who were also alchemists, had condensed all their energy together. The destructive power within it was unimaginable. Let them through. Send word that no one is to block the flying boats of Pill Valley. Just at this moment, a voice rang out from the depths of the forest. The flying boat quickly left the heaven-devouring forest, no longer suffering any more attacks. Furthermore, as they flew by, the giant trees would open a path for them, which revealed the light of the sun. Protector Joy is mighty. You managed to completely intimidate those wood idiots. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome, said a life star expert emotionally. The other life star experts nodded. If Zhuo Tianxiang hadn't managed to intimidate the tree demons, it really would have been troublesome. Those tree demons have been cultivating for too long, even their heads have started to solidify. They're actually acting more and more unscrupulously. Back then, Pill Valley gave them some space and respected their living habits. Each time we passed, we would slow down. But those idiots actually took that as us being afraid of them. They would block our flying boats several times and threaten us. If we didn't do this, it probably wouldn't be long before they started demanding a toll for us to pass, sneered Zhuo Tianxiang. This detestable heaven-devouring forest doesn't even place Pill Valley in its eyes. It seems our prestige is dropping more and more. It's all because of those stubborn old bastards who are hidebound by convention. Otherwise, who would dare to say a word if we eliminated a few sects like the Shen Dao sect? Raged a life star expert. Long Chen quietly listened. Suddenly, Zhuo Tianxiang glanced at him, and Long Chen knew that this bastard was about to kick him out, so he took the initiative. Seniors, it seems that you're talking about major classified matters. Does disciple need to step away? Probed Long Chen. Zhuo Tianxiang had been about to send Long Chen away on the pretext of him needing to cultivate. After all, some things weren't appropriate for him to know. But now that Long Chen had put it like this, he didn't feel right kicking him out. Although Zhuo Tianxiang still disliked Long San inside, he still felt that raising a powerful genius alchemist would bring him great benefits. If he kicked him out here, it would imply that he still thought of him as an outsider. There's no need, you're not an outsider, and you can know some things. You just have to remember them in your heart and not bring them up, said Zhuo Tianxiang in the end. In truth, Long San will learn of this sooner or later. Learning it now isn't a bad thing. One of the life star experts explained, Pill Valley can be said to be the strongest power within the entire continent. Whether it's in terms of power or wealth, we completely beat the Shen Dao sect. If we wanted to, we could crush them like ants. What's the Shen Dao sect? Is it very powerful? Long Chen acted stupid. Cough, I forgot you only encountered the alchemy world in the eastern wasteland and don't know anything about sects, said that elder. Zhuo Tianxiang had gone through his memories and knew that Long San was completely focused on alchemy and knew very little about the cultivation world. As for mentioning the Shen Dao sect, it was just to vent some of his resentment at them. In any case, all you need to know is that Pill Valley is the strongest existence in the world. However, although we have all that power, a group of conservative old men still control Pill Valley. As a result, Pill Valley's position is dropping more and more in the world, its dignity being erased. Even a declined sect dares to provoke our prestige. It really is infuriating. Isn't the cultivation world one where the strong are respected? If they don't submit, then just beat them. Can't you just beat them into submission? Asked Long Chen, continuing to try and learn any secrets. It's Pill Valley's higher-ups. They're too conservative and refuse to use our power to intimidate the world. It pisses me off. Hearing that elder's explanation, Long Chen learned that Pill Valley's interior was not united. Instead, there was a fierce fight going on inside. Long Chen summarized that Pill Valley had two factions. One was the conservative faction, while the other was the radical faction. The competition between the two sides was extremely intense. The so-called conservative faction was an advocate for staying neutral and not participating in any struggles. They focused on alchemy and were indifferent to anything else. The other faction, the radical faction, was unwilling to let Pill Valley go nowhere like this. Instead, it should be Pill Valley that controlled the continent. The radical faction criticized the conservative faction for being pedantic. They had also been the ones to allow the Huayan sect to slowly grow. After all, with Pill Valley existing first, if they had simply annihilated the Huayan sect with a thunderous blow at the start, there wouldn't be anyone who could compete with them. But the conservative faction had its own principles and was indifferent. They felt like representing Pill Valley's foundation was enough. The rise and fall of the cultivation world had nothing to do with them. Long Chen hadn't expected the situation to be like this. But to express his standpoint, he immediately began to curse the conservative faction for not showing initiative and not working on advancing. They stagnated, holding back Pill Valley's development. Long Chen's display satisfied Zhuo Tianxiang and the others. At the very least, in terms of character, this Long San was not bad. They needed this kind of highly proactive youth. Protector Zhuo, if you need anything, just tell me. Disciple will definitely accomplish it even if I must go through raging fire or deep water. After all, I, Long San, am also a member of Pill Valley, and I have the responsibility to push Pill Valley forward and excavate all my potential. I'll work hard to overthrow those pedantic rulers stopping Pill Valley's growth. I'll make them all get lost. Long Chen cried with righteous indignation as if the Conservative Party had somehow committed great atrocities against him. These words were mostly just big talk. Zhuo Tianxiang and the others also felt that it was a joke that a small little disciple could overthrow the Conservative faction. But they also approved of his attitude, so Zhuo Tianxiang nodded. Good. Long San, just remember that as long as you work hard enough and are loyal, you'll definitely receive the best grooming within Pill Valley. Once we arrive at Pill Valley, I'll tell you how to act. However, although your alchemy talent's decent, don't get easily satisfied. There are plenty of geniuses in this world. Your current accomplishments are nothing, so you need to work hard on improving your alchemy arts. No matter how good your talent is, you can't slack off. If you don't have the willpower to work through the boredom and loneliness, you won't have any big accomplishments. We all have a high view of your talent, so work hard. Yes, Disciple understands. Disciple will immediately enter seclusion and bitterly train. Long Chen said his goodbyes and returned to his room. Locking the door, he drank some wine and fell asleep, beginning his bitter training. Because of the underworld soul ghost curse, he was only able to use his spiritual yuan to form his flame energy. That was the only way to prevent the curse from reactivating. Other than refining pills, he couldn't do anything right now. In the past few days, he had been forced to be extremely careful with all these experts staring over his shoulder. It was truly tiring. When he finally had a chance to rest, he naturally took a good nap. Long Chen didn't know how long he had been sleeping for when he suddenly heard someone knock on the door. He hastily sat up and warmed up his pill furnace, looking like he had just been refining pills. Only then did he open the door. Working hard is good, but you need to balance it. After 4 more hours, we'll arrive at Pill Valley. Therefore, Protector Zhuo wants you to make yourself presentable. Switch out your robes. One of Pill Valley's experts handed Long Chen a set of ocean blue embroidered robes. Long Chen washed up. His messy hair was tied into a knot behind his head. After putting on the robes, he looked much more alive and refreshed. With his tall stature, the robes even made him appear handsome. If he walked down the streets, he'd definitely turn a few heads. Not bad. As expected, the clothing makes the man. You're like a whole different Long San. When Long Chen came out, the elders were quite moved. He was like a completely different person. He had been like an impoverished beggar when they had first met him. But now, it was like he had become a prince. The visual impact was quite great. Truly not bad, but handsomeness doesn't have that much use. Of course, if you were able to seduce the Pill Fairy, that would be a different story. Zhuo Tianxiang looked over Long Chen. For some unknown reason, The image of Long Chen appeared in his mind as he looked at Long San. "Who is the pill fairy?" asked Long Chen. "Ha, little fellow, Protector Zhuo was just joking. Don't start getting carried away by your wishful thinking. With your current power, you don't even have the qualifications to meet the pill fairy," laughed one of the elders. "Using this bit of time we have, I'll test you and see how well you've progressed after everything we've taught you." Zhuo Tianxiang directly began to test Long Chen on the foundational alchemy arts of Pill Valley. Long Chen answered all his questions easily. The most shocking thing to Zhuo Tianxiang and the others was that Long Chen was able to infer concepts completely beyond what they had initially taught him. Just from the foundational skills they had taught him, he proposed various theories. A portion of those were wrong, only looking right in theory, and Zhuo Tianxiang immediately corrected them, but this terrifying comprehension ability still amazed them. Furthermore, his control over his pill flame had also reached a very high level. Even these old alchemists were stunned. But then, thinking of his terrifying spiritual strength, they supposed that such precise control was only natural. "We've arrived." Just at this moment, the flying boat stopped in front of a huge transportation formation. There were countless experts guarding it, all of them wearing the robes of Pill Valley. "Long San, just follow me," said Zhuo Tianxiang. Long Chen's heart turned cold as he realized what Zhuo Tianxiang was intending. In the future, Zhuo Tianxiang would be looking after him. But Long Chen didn't want to keep interacting with this fellow. He was worried about being seen through. "Many thanks, Protector Zhuo." However, he had no choice but to put on a grateful expression as he thought of how to escape this fellow. As he descended the flying boat with Zhuo Tianxiang, he suddenly thought of an idea, and a wicked grin appeared on his face. He tightly followed behind Zhuo Tianxiang, locking his eyes on Zhuo Tianxiang's butt. Zhuo Tianxiang descended the boat first, while the others followed him. Clearly, his status was very high even within Pill Valley. The experts guarding the transportation formation all bowed toward him. As for Zhuo Tianxiang, he only nodded slightly in reply. Although these people were all life-star experts, the guards had to be deferential to Zhuo Tianxiang's group. This is normal. Within Pill Valley, rather than having a high cultivation base, having high alchemy skills is the most important thing, said an elder upon seeing Long Chen's curious expression. Long Chen immediately understood. Pill Valley's foundation was their medicinal pills. They represented the alchemy world's greatest glory. So compared to cultivation base, alchemy was more important. However, to have 4 life-star experts guarding a single transportation formation, Pill Valley's wealth was truly frightening. Just raising cultivation base is useless. Training your alchemy arts is the most important thing. Fighting and other course work can be easily handled by others. That's why you don't need to feel inferior about having a low cultivation base. There are countless medicinal pills in Pill Valley that can raise your cultivation base. But raising your alchemy arts depends on yourself. Remember, alchemy arts are the most important thing in Pill Valley, said Zhuo Tianxiang. In Pill Valley's eyes, no matter how great your cultivation talent was, at best you would just be a high-level fighter. Alchemy was the truly important thing. Yes, many thanks for Protector Zhuo's reminder. Disciple will remember your words, said Long Chen. Zhuo Tianxiang suddenly felt something was off. Sweeping out with his divine sense, he saw Long San staring at his butt. He was startled. What illness did this brat have? He suddenly noticed a strange emotion in Long San's eyes. What is this brat? Zhuo Tianxiang's hair stood on end. He suddenly thought of something strange. When he had gone through Long San's memories, he hadn't seen any memories of him falling for girls. In fact, even his memories of women were indistinct. He hadn't particularly noticed that before, but now with Long San staring at his butt, he immediately thought of it. He felt like Long San's gaze was like a viper's, sweeping back and forth across his butt. Goosebumps raised across his skin. This bastard, he's a homosexual? Zhuo Tianxiang suddenly felt noxious. It was no wonder he had been feeling disgusted by him from the start. So this was the case. Long San, you walk at the front. Zhuo Tianxiang immediately stopped and made Long Chen come forward. Long Chen hastily stopped staring and said, How could disciple possibly walk in front of you? Disciple does not dare. Disciple would rather stay here and stare at Protector Zhuo's grand back. That is disciple's glory. Zhuo Tianxiang was enraged. His suspicion that Long San was a homosexual increased even more. If I tell you to go to the front, then go to the front. Thus, disciple will go immediately. Long Chen acted cowed and walked to the front. But inside, he was ecstatic. With all the tricks up his sleeve, getting out of Zhuo Tianxiang's close watch was easy. Zhao Xiang, I suddenly recall I have many things to handle. I'll leave Long San to you. You'll be in charge of everything when it comes to Long San, said Zhuo Tianxiang to one of the experts beside him. Me? But my alchemy arts are far inferior to yours, said the Zhao Xiang. It's fine. Long San is definitely smart enough to enter the Divine Pill Hall. He'll get specialists to teach him alchemy arts at that time. With his talent, all you have to do is make sure he has what he needs. Give him everything he wants. If there are any difficulties, you can find me, said Zhuo Tianxiang. Yes. Many thanks, Protector Zhuo. Zhao Xiang was extremely grateful. The other experts all had envious expressions. Long Chen was like a piece of fat meat in their hands. They would all be getting some benefits. That was because his future accomplishments would be amazing, and they would have contributed merit in bringing such a genius to Pill Valley. If their luck was good, they would be getting quite some benefits. Originally, they had thought Zhuo Tianxiang would be consuming this piece of meat on his own. But now Zhuo Tianxiang had abandoned this piece of meat and had tossed it to them. Long Chen was walking at the front, and hearing Zhuo Tianxiang's words, disappointed expression appeared on his face. Inside, he patted himself on the back. As expected, shameless moves were the most effective. Now it would be much easier for him to act in the future. Zhuo Tianxiang kept walking behind Long Chen the entire time before they stepped into the transportation formation and were brought away. The scenery before them changed, and they appeared in front of a huge valley. Two high mountains soared into the clouds, and a large river slowly flowed at the center. Spiritual qi that had been condensed to practically the pinnacle washed over them. With each breath, it flowed into them, completely opening their pores. What immense spiritual qi! Although Long Chen had been expecting Pill Valley to be a wonderland, such dense spiritual qi still shocked him. Let alone cultivators, even ordinary people would have their longevity increase by breathing in such dense spiritual qi all year around. Living a few centuries would definitely be no problem. To ordinary mortals, this place was definitely an immortal wonderland. Take note of your appearance. Now that we're within Pill Valley, don't act like a country bumpkin. If you look too excited, others will laugh at you, snorted Zhuo Tianxiang. Long Chen cursed inside. So what if he was a country bumpkin that hadn't seen the world? But he put on a deeply respectful expression. The more Long Chen acted like this, the more Zhuo Tianxiang couldn't bear to look at him. He said, I have things to do, so I'm going. You can bring Long San to the Pill Management Department to register. Zhuo Tianxiang took out a jade plate. It lit up and enveloped him, and he vanished. We should get going. Once Zhuo Tianxiang left, Zhao Xiang took out a flying boat and brought everyone into the valley. With the high mountains to their side and the lake below, it was a beautiful scene. Long San, Protector Zhuo has a sharp tongue, but he's soft-hearted. You don't need to be afraid. As Pill Valley's disciple, you should feel the glory and grandness that a disciple of Pill Valley should possess. What you see before you will become your greatest support. If you're happy, you can shout it out. None of us will laugh at you. Zhao Xiang smiled as Long Chen appreciated the scenery around. He was different from Zhuo Tianxiang. His status was just average, and he had to take advantage of when Long San hadn't soared yet to form a good relationship with him. Once Long San soared, his own station would rise with him. This was the best moment to help him out. Many thanks, Elder Zhao Xiang, said Long Chen. There's no need to be so courteous. This valley continues for 200,000 miles. It has 81 wonders and 360 turns. Each turn brings with it different scenery. Zhao Xiang politely explained everything. He intentionally slowed down the flying boat to show the various spectacles. Long Chen had no choice but to sigh in admiration. Each wonder, each turn brought with it a change. It occurred at a strange rhythm that seemed to be showing things to him in sequence. Could it be that each wonder represents a different mental realm of alchemy? Asked Long Chen. As soon as he said this, Zhao Xiang and the others became stunned, staring at him like he was a monster. Long San, you really are a genius amongst geniuses. This valley's 81 wonders represent the 81 shackles one will encounter along the path of the alchemy Tao. Normally, when disciples run into bottlenecks and can't progress, they will come to this valley and walk around it, trying to comprehend its profundities to create an opportunity to break through. Long San, for you to be able to see such a thing shows that your future accomplishments will be limitless. Praised an elder. This was not just purely bootlicking, but true praise for Long Chen's terrifying comprehension ability. 81 shackles? What idiot concluded that? The alchemy Tao is a grand Tao, and a limitless Tao at that. Who could possibly capture all its profundities? What a joke, sneered Long Chen inside. As he continued forward, he truly saw that each wonder was a mental realm for alchemy, and seeing them could truly raise a person's comprehension. But trying to represent the sum of the alchemy Tao in 81 mental realms was a complete impossibility. Originally, Long Chen had felt some respect for Pill Valley, but after seeing this, that respect silently vanished. When they reached the end of the valley, what greeted them was a huge ancient castle. This castle had to be 10,000 miles wide at least. There were two large statues at the front of the castle. They were the same height as the castle and emitted a divine aura. These two are the gods we of Pill Valley believe in, Lord Brahma and Fallen Day-Night. Zhao Xiang and the others respectfully stopped and bowed toward the statues. They murmured something, but Long Chen didn't hear what they said. That was because he was staring closely at the two huge statues. The left one was holding a scroll in his hand. He looked very handsome and scholarly. He was Lord Brahma. The other one was a rougher-looking man with facial hair. He held a pill furnace in his hands and was gazing into the distance. He was Fallen Day-Night. Fallen Day-Night? Lord Brahma? For some unknown reason, flames of fury rose in Long Chen's heart as he stared at these two statues. He had an urge to smash them apart. That startled him. What was going on? At this time, Zhao Xiang and the others finished paying their respect and led Long Chen past the two statues. Their flying boat landed on a large platform. Long Senka, I'll bring you to register at the Pill Management Department. Fallen Day-Night is, literally falling heaven/sky/day-night. Pronounced Luo Tianyi. Lord Brahma is, literally Great Nirvana or Lord Brahma. Here, I would assume the Brahma is referring to the Buddhist Brahma and not the Hindu Brahma. Generally the middle character is used for Buddhist things, and it could refer to Brahman on its own, but combined with the last character, it refers to Brahma and the Nirvana of Buddhism. The Nirvana scripture has the same name, in the sense that it could be called Lord Brahma's scripture, or Lord Brahma could be called Lord Nirvana. Pronounced a Fan Tian. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.